Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa barakatuh. So, Alhamdulillah, we are the 21st of June. Time is flying very, very quickly. We are already week 5 of this program. And I think it's probably a good idea to kind of review a little bit what we have done before we continue. So, this was kind of the format that I was given. Where in this particular model, I'm focusing on the fundamentals of Islamic business principles. So we're talking about halal, haram, ethical business practices. I started, if you remember, with the story of Jarir. And so he was the man who bought a camel. Sorry, it wasn't a camel, it was a horse. Initially, it was for 300 dinars, and he added another 500 dinars. And so we have to understand this because when people ask him, why did you do this? He said, this is because it was my responsibility, because he had made an oath to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And I started by saying that there's a difference between paying the price of the market and paying a fair price. So it might be that the price of the market is not a fair price. So maybe in the example of this horse, the market price was 300 dinars. But he realized that the fair price would be 800 dinars, right? So if he had bought the horse for 300 dinars, that would be halal, right? But it wouldn't fulfill the Islamic spirit in that transaction, even though it's halal. So he decided on his own sense of taqwa, his own sense of amana, to add another 500 dinars in order to make 800 dinars, right? So I kind of made all these lectures around this story. The main reason is just by over the years, what I've realized is you need to have something very simple that allows you to organize your ideas around this, right? So as long as we understand that there's a difference between the market price and a fair price, then we understand that whatever happens related to Islamic business is about finding what is the fair price. Because the fair price has to do with what you perceive to be important in the Quran and the Sunnah. So we have to go and we have to start thinking about what is the Quran saying, what is the Sunnah saying, what can we learn from the life of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And so this is where the idea of reflecting on the Quran and the Sunnah becomes very important. Okay, so that's kind of a general picture. At the level of an organization, what I was saying was that what the business leader is trying to do, amongst other things, is to create an Islamic corporate culture. And the way you would do that is having these regular sessions, maybe 1 hour every week, where you are discussing things related to the Quran and the Sunnah, but you're relating it to what is happening in the workplace, right? So it's not a random discussion about religion. It's, for example, the idea of Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. How do we relate that to our what we are currently doing as an organization? When we talk about some of the ayat that we looked at last week, one of the principles that we learned from the Quran is the idea that Ya ayyuhan nas a'budu ila rabbikum min qablikum wa la'allakum tattaqun. Right? So it's all about doing ibadah. So you're at work, fine, alhamdulillah, you're earning an income, but are you doing it simply because you want to survive? Or are you doing it knowing that you're going to have to stand in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to And you're going to have to explain literally every single transaction you made, you're going to have to explain. Why did you do A? Why did you do B? Why did you do C? And if you think about how many transaction you do in a day, how many conversations you have in a day, in every single conversation, you have the opportunity to demonstrate taqwa, or you have the opportunity to betray your values and your principles, right? So having those conversations with people at the workplace, at the end, you have a shared understanding of the Quran and the Sunnah. And this shared understanding is related to the whatever work you're doing, right? And so this kind of discussion is very critical. It's also very time consuming, right? And so it's not something you're going to have the conversation once and then that's it. Everybody understand. It's going to be maybe something you do once a week. And as the weeks go by, you will have this shared understanding that becomes the corporate culture of the organization. Okay. The other thing that I wanted to emphasize is that we now have data, right, to support the claim that this works. In other words, over the last 10, 15, 20 years, when I say we, I mean scholars in the area of Islamic management have collected a lot of empirical data. And we know that when people reflect on the Quran and the Sunnah in a systematic manner, their psychology changes. So their level of spirituality changes, their resilience changes, their level of hope changes. Everything goes from negative to positive, or it goes to positive to plus plus, simply because they're reflecting on the Quran and the Sunnah. Okay. And so that's kind of where we are now, is kind of in the middle. Today we are going to be reflecting on the second part of Surah Al-Baqarah. And next week we're going to go and talk about the Sunnah and the Sirah of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam as well, next week and the week after. And that's really important because this is something that is really important to understand. You can pick and choose what you like from Islamic knowledge, and that's very dangerous, right? So it's always, okay, what is the Quran saying? What is the Sunnah saying? How did the Prophet ﷺ implement the Quran and the Sunnah in his lifetime? So these three things should always be in the back of your mind. You cannot take Islamic knowledge out of context, and you cannot just take one ayat and say, oh, because of this one ayat, now I'm going to change my life, right? There has to be a consistency between what the Quran is saying, what the Sunnah is saying, what what we can learn from the Sirah of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And again, what I've been talking about is there are two different things. One is tafsir of Quran, and that is something that the scholars do, right? And then you have reflecting on the Quran, which is the obligation of everyone, right? So as a Muslim, even a simple explanation of the Quran, you can find that online. Now I have to look at this explanation and think, well, how does it apply to me, Ridwan Fontaine, right? How does it apply to my circumstance, right? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So again, in practical terms, so one of the things I've been trying to do in these lectures is share what I'm doing with my students, because I think that can be replicated by other people. So I have this YouTube channel. These are 5 minutes videos, but these 5 minutes videos have not been done randomly. It's literally based on the work of other people, on the work of scholars. And I've a lot of the videos, for example, on Islam, which you can find on YouTube, are 25 minutes or 30 minutes, or some of them are even 1 hour. You can't really use these videos in a classroom setting or in the meeting, right? So 5 minutes videos is really easy. So what happens is I invite my students to choose a video. They show the video for 5 minutes. They talk, they share their reflections for 5 minutes. So imagine that there's a group of 40 students. 5 students are presenting in front. They share their reflections for 10, 15 minutes. And for 30 or 45 minutes, they're discussing this ayat, right? But because they're doing this every week for the whole semester, literally as the week goes by, their understanding of the Quran and the Sunnah just evolves. And it evolves in a very natural way. Now, another thing that I've talked about, which I really want to emphasize, is the focus is not on teaching, the focus is on learning. In other words, as a lecturer, even though I'm a lecturer, I do not lecture my students. I let my students discuss amongst themselves. I observe, I listen to what they're saying. Maybe I will ask some questions if I think that they need to take the discussion in more detail, but they're actually learning without my input. Okay. Now I'm listening to their conversations very carefully, and maybe at the end of the session, I will summarize a few points. But I'm actually very conscious that they have to figure this out for themselves, right? So I'm trying to encourage these people, my students, to have a personal relationship with the Quran. And this is a skill that they need to develop, right? Now, there are certain things which I've already pointed out. One of the things is generally their understanding of Allah's names and attributes is very weak. So whenever there's an ayat, I will encourage them to think about what is Allah's names that is in this ayat. And so for example, in Surah Al-Baqarah, Allah's name of At-Tawwab appears a lot. So I will make that point and try to get them to discuss that point. So I'm there to help them think more deeply about certain things, but basically, as much as possible, I just let them discuss amongst themselves. And as the weeks go by, their maturity and their understanding of the Quran and the Sunnah will evolve. So this is a continuation of the presentation last week. Last week we talked about the introduction, the creation of Adam. We talked a little bit about Bani Israel. Today I'm going to focus on Prophet Ibrahim and the Muslims until the end of time. I'm not really going to talk a lot about Prophet Ibrahim, because if we did that, it would be the whole session, just Prophet Ibrahim, what his mission was, and why is this particular, because there are many parts of the life of Prophet Ibrahim in the Quran, but this is a very, very, very specific part of his life. So that would be a whole discussion by itself, which I don't really want to do that. I want to focus on the last section, which is the Muslims until the end of time. So the logic is, as a Muslim, first of all, you have to understand your purpose of creation. Okay, part one. Then you need to understand your history, your personal history, which is why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala create you? And your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and your relationship with Iblis. Then you have the story of Bani Israel, a negative case study, the example of a community that went wrong, that made a mistake or made many mistakes. Then you have Prophet Ibrahim. And Prophet Ibrahim is, again, there are different parts to his story, but what is being emphasized is he is the person who created the Kaaba, who built the Kaaba, which allows people to complete their purpose, which is to do ibadah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, so you kind of have to think about these things first, and then you come to the ayat that we are going to look at. So this is the ayat in for Nabi Ibrahim, but I'm going to actually skip this, and I'm going to go straight to this one. Now, what I would like you to appreciate is, again, I did not randomly pick this ayat. Okay, so when I started making these videos, I relied on the work of Numan Ali Khan. He has his own website. I think I showed that last time. And I listened to all of his lectures and I followed his lectures. And one of the things that he was saying is that, the Surah Al-Baqarah is actually divided into different parts. And in every part, there are certain ayat which are at the center, right? So it's almost like there's an ayat at the center, and then there are some other ayats which kind of revolve around the topic from the center. And so the first ayat that he talked about, which was at the center of a group of ayat in this fifth part, is this one, ayat 168, 168, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala basically says, "Oh, humanity, eat from what is on this earth, which is halal and tayyib, and do not follow the footsteps of shaitan." Okay, so how do we understand this? Shaitan wants you to get into haram. Simple. So you have a choice. You have things which are halal. You have things which are haram. And the first thing that shaitan is going to do is say, hey, why don't you try this thing that is haram? Okay. Now, when it comes to food, it seems like, oh, well, uh, I think as Muslims, when it comes to food, we're quite clear of the benefit of food that is halal and so on and so forth. But if you think about risk and you think about money, it's quite amazing. If you look, for example, I do this with my students. I show them statistics, which you can find on Google, and you look at the profit margin of certain industries. And for example, you have the profit margins in maybe the telecommunication industry or the computer industry or advertising, whatever. Normally, the profit margin is around 10%, 10% or less. So the majority of businesses will be less than 10%. I would say if you have a business where you have a profit margin which is more than 10%, that's actually a very profitable business. There are many, many businesses where the profit margin is 2%, 3%, 4%, 5%. Okay. When you look at these statistics and you look at the banking industry, which is obviously based on riba, the profit margin is over 20%. Right? So in the banking industry, the profit margin is between 20% and 30%. And because of this, it's very well known, for example, in Malaysia, that if you want to make a lot of money, you enter the banking industry and your salary will always be very, very high compared to any other industry. Okay, so it's literally the banking industry is double or triple the profit margins of other industries. The other industry which is very profitable is insurance. Again, the profit margin in the insurance industry is very, very high. Credit cards. This is absolutely insane. Credit cards is more than 50%, right? Visa has a profit margin of 54%. right? Every time you use your Visa card and you go to a merchant and they take their commission and whatever, the profit margin for Visa is 54%. It's insane, right? So when we're saying do not follow the footsteps of shaitan, when it comes to food, it's very easy. When it comes to business, you're talking about making huge profits, incredible amounts of profits, right? And so the problem for a lot of people who are in business is literally they are attracted by the profits. And the profits you can make in the haram businesses are so lucrative that there will be some people who will basically say, you know what? I know that this is unethical, but let me do it anyway. Like in Malaysia, every single person who is working in the banking industry knows the ayat about riba. I'm sure of that. But for whatever reason, they have decided, I know about this ayat about riba, I don't care. I will follow wherever the money takes me. Okay. So I call this the first trick of shaitan. So the first thing that shaitan wants you to do is to get into uh, those things which are haram. Okay. This is the next ayat. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu. So the first ayat was to the whole of humanity. This is specifically to the believers. All right. Udkhulu fil silm kafa. Right. So silm is in this context is another word for Islam. Enter Islam completely and do not follow the footsteps of shaitan. So again, I want you to appreciate the fact that I was following the lectures of Numan Khan. So I did not know when I was listening to his lectures, I didn't know where he was going. Right? I was basically literally following his footsteps as a speaker. And when this came up and became the second ayat, central ayat of this part of Surah Al-Baqarah, I was like, wow. So this is the second trick of shaitan. The second trick of shaitan is something that Bani Israel became very famous for. You pick and choose what you like of your religion, right? So let's say, for example, you say, okay, I'm a Muslim, alhamdulillah, I'm okay with the prayers. Prayers 5 times a day, not a problem. I'm okay for fasting during the month of Ramadan. But when it comes to business transaction, uh, I actually like riba because there's so much money to be made in riba. So then what people do is either they ignore an ayat or they reinterpret an ayat, right? So I started talking about the ayat of riba, so I'll continue with the ayat of riba. Um, in the Christian world, they had the same dilemma, right? Because the ayat in the Bible, the riba is also prohibited, right? So the Christians actually have the same dilemma as the Muslims is, you know, Christians should not be involved in usury. So what eventually what happened in the Christian world is people say, okay, sometimes you have a normal rate of interest, which is okay, right? So if you have a low interest rate, that's okay. But if you have a high interest rate, that's unethical, right? So people started saying, oh, okay, so this level of interest is fine. If you have more than that's when it becomes haram, right? And so they started talking about usury rates. And usury rates, they mean more than the common rates, right? So some people started saying, actually, if you look at the ayat of riba, what it really means is blah, blah, blah. And they start reinterpreting the ayat to justify whatever they want to justify. So for me, in the business world, the ayat of riba are very, very fundamental because you cannot ignore them, right? They are there. And for most people in the business world, this will be the number one issue. I think, wallahu alam, I think this will be the number one issue that will be discussed on Yawm Qiyamah. So I actually talked to uh, Muslim business people, right? As I mentioned, I think in the first lecture, when I started getting interested in Islamic management, I went around as many CEOs as I could in KL and asked them, like, is it possible to run your business according to Islamic principles? And a lot of them said yes. And when I talk to people who are running Muslim companies according to Islamic principles, and I ask about the idea of riba, what they said was very important and very interesting. Say, if you rely on alternative sources of financing, so for example, instead of borrowing from the bank, you find long-term investors, right? So let's say you're running a small business, you need 5 million ringgit. So you go around, you find 5 people, each person will, put in $1 million or 1 million ringgit, and then you blah, blah, blah. So you can build your business, but it will be slower than if you use riba. And I remember I have a friend who is a very established person in the corporate scene in Malaysia. And he has several companies. He basically knows everybody in the business world. I think a lot of people know him as well in Malaysia. And I asked him, can you give me an idea of how long are we talking about? So he thought about it and he said, okay, imagine that you are using riba to build a business over 5 years. If you use Islamic principles to finance your business, it will take you 15 years, right? So you will still grow your company, but it'll be slower than if you use riba. Okay. The point is this: will you be in business? Yes. Are you going to make money? Yes. Are you growing your company? Yes. Is your money halal? Yes. So why is it so important for you to build your business quickly? Okay. So the trick of shaitan has to do not simply you ignore and whatever you want from Islam. I think maybe I should have rewritten the slide and be more accurate. Shaitan likes to take advantage of the fact that we as human beings, we like things to happen quickly, right? We are in a hurry. We want to become rich quickly. We want to do this quickly. So because we are so hasty, Shaitan basically says, hey, you know what? If you want to do things quickly, you've got to ignore this ayat of Quran. Now, there are other tricks that Shaitan does. One is when you start ignoring certain principles, you feel guilty, right? And so Shaitan will help you deal with that guilt by focusing on other things which are trivial, right? So the reason I make this point is because if you think about Islamic principles, there are certain principles which are very, 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 very fundamental, right? And then there are other principles which are quite secondary. And one of the tricks of Shaitan is you become obsessed with the secondary principles and you forget the fundamental principles, right? So it's your sense of priority becomes mixed up. So I have this conversation with my students and I say, okay, this is the general principle. And we just start talking about, can you give examples of, things that people pick and choose in the religion and relate it to your personal example and so on and so forth. So it's always the first level is you have to understand what the ayat is about. And then you start thinking about how does it apply to you, and it's to create an awareness that this is basically how Iblis kind of plays around with people. Okay, so two tricks of shaitan. Trick number one, get you to be involved in haram. Trick number two, if that doesn't work, you start picking and choosing what you like from Islam, and you ignore certain things, and certain things which are low priority you put in a higher priority, and basically you justify this to yourself because you say, I want to do this quickly, I need to do this quickly, I need to do blah blah blah, right? So that's kind of where we are. Okay, I'm looking at the time. I have another 10 minutes, 10, 12 minutes. I want to go to the next section. Actually, I really wanted to talk about this more because I think that this is one of the core issues that people face when it comes to Islamic business. But never mind, we can maybe in the Q&A have a short discussion about that a little bit later on. The third central ayat is ayat al-Kursi, right? And everybody is familiar with ayat al-Kursi. I'm not going to give you a translation because that would be quite time consuming. But my question was, why is ayat al-Kursi so important? Right? Because there are many ayat of Quran that describes the names and the attributes of Allah. But we know from the hadith that ayat al-Kursi is the Sayyid, the leader of all the ayat of Quran, according to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So I was really struggling to understand why this ayat was so important. And even though I listened to the lectures, I started asking other people. And in particular, I have a number of friends who are scholars, so I started asking them, and until I was satisfied. And what is important to realize is the last part of Surah Al-Baqarah. So the part number 5 of Surah Al-Baqarah is about the struggles that the Muslims will face. The one struggle is basically dealing with the halal and the haram. Okay? Another struggle is dealing with Islam or taking Islam completely, right? So you don't end up picking and choosing whatever you like. The third struggle, which is identified in this portion of the Quran, is greed. One of the things about us as human beings is we are greedy. And the only way you will deal with that greed is if you reflect on Ayat al-Kursi regularly, right? Because Ayat al-Kursi is basically a very powerful reminder of Yawm al-Qiyamah, right? Nobody will be able to say anything without being invited to on Yawm al-Qiyamah. And on Yawm al-Qiyamah, you're going to stand in front of Allah. You're going to have to explain all the things that you did. And nobody will be able to intercede for you without the permission of Allah. And the smallest thing or the biggest thing, it will all be there. So if you really understand that and you start thinking about this ayat regularly, you realize that whatever you do, you have to be able to stand in front of Allah and literally explain to Allah, this is what I did on this day. These are the conversations that I had. These are the business transactions that I did. This. And everything has been documented, and you should be able to explain and justify everything without any exaggeration, without any lying, without making any excuses, etc. So Ayat al-Kursi is so, so powerful if you understand that it's not simply for barakah, right? This is always the dilemma that sometimes when we teach people about Islam, we teach it in a way that is very generic or very heartwarming, but maybe not very practical. It is literally, how do you kill greed in your heart? How do you destroy jealousy in your heart? Is you think about Ayat al-Kursi. And Ayat al-Kursi is about preparing you for Yawm al-Qiyamah. And again, there are many aspects to Ayat al-Kursi, which I do not want to go into because or else it will take a lot of time. But a lot of it is about describing who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is, and you realize how insignificant you are. Okay. I was thinking about this with all the things which are going on in the world, especially with Donald Trump and what the Israelis are doing, and it's completely crazy. But at the heart of it, these leaders think that there's people who are very great, right? So in their heart, there's this disease where they think, oh, I'm a world leader. I'm somebody important. You're nobody. Really, you are nobody. At the end of the day, whether you like it or not, you are simply a slave of Allah. And on Yom Qiyamah, you might have a farmer or a factory worker who is in a much better position than you are because at least they were obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is something that we will observe on Yom Qiyamah. Like inshallah, hopefully we will all be on the right side on Yom Qiyamah. But for me, I'm looking forward to Yom Qiyamah in the sense that we will see justice be done. And all those who were oppressors will see what they get. And then all those who were oppressed will see the reward of being patient, inshallah. Right? So in that sense, I'm very optimistic that the Palestinians will be very satisfied. They will all be satisfied on Yom Qiyamah. Okay. But again, when we're doing this session, I tell my students, don't start thinking about what's happening in the rest of the world. Think about yourself. Are you greedy? Are you jealous sometimes? Right? And then if you think about, or if you realize that there's some kind of greed in you and there's some kind of jealousy, then how do you get rid of it? Right? How do you kill that sense of greed or that sense of jealousy in your heart? Because if you don't, that greed and jealousy will basically contaminate your heart, right? And so that's again the discussion that we would have if we start talking about Ayat al-Kursi. Okay, so this is kind of a summary conclusion that I think summarizes in a lot of things that we are trying to do. First of all, why should we create Islamic corporate culture? Basically, you want to talk about Amar bil Ma'ruf wa Nahi anil Munkar inside the organization, but not by creating more rules, right? I think Muslims are obsessed with having more rules and regulations. That's not actually how you create a good corporate culture. People, once they understand the Quran and the Sunnah, they don't need rules, right? They themselves will know what is the right thing to do because their taqwa will have been built. And the other thing that is really important is the idea of leadership. Leaders, sometimes when you talk to CEOs and you talk about corporate training, they always say, oh, my people need to change, my people need to change, my people need to change, my people need to change. And, sometimes when I listen to the CEOs talk, I think, yeah, but you're the leader. You should be the first one to change. You should be leading by example, right? So if you want everybody else to change, but you don't want to change, you're actually showing the wrong example. right? So it's always, we have to change ourselves first. And inshallah, if we change ourselves first, we inspire other people in the organization to change. And then the values of the Quran and the Sunnah kind of become disseminated inside the organization. But it starts at the top. And everybody at the bottom realizes, oh, even our leaders are changing. They're becoming better Muslims. Right? So that sincerity kind of also is a very important part. So if you have a lot of Islamic knowledge, but you lose that sincerity, habis. It's like you've got nothing. But if everybody goes through this process in a very sincere way, I think it's a very, very, very beneficial process. Will it happen in a few weeks? No. If you do it every week for several months, yes, after several months, everybody will have changed. If you do it for 1 or 2 years, inshallah, after 1 or 2 years, the corporate culture should be very, very nice. Okay, so I'm looking at the time. I have 3 minutes left. I open the floor for Q&A, and I apologize for not doing this earlier, but trying to manage my time as best I can. Okay, thank you very much. Three minutes for Q&A.
Thank you very much, Doctor. So now we open for Q&A. If anyone have a question, you can raise up your hand directly, or you can write in the chat box. Just raise up your hand if you have the question.
No Q&A, no questions.
Yeah,
Okay. Can I quickly take the opportunity to mention something?
Yes, sure.
So let me just go here. Let me go here. Okay. So I was wondering whether this is something that I should share or not, but because there's no questions, I'll take this for 2 minutes. Recently, so a few months ago, the Kuliah of Economics and Management started an initiative called the RCIM, which stands for the Research Center in Islamic Management. And we have this website, rcim.iim.edu.my. And what we have done is collected a database with all the journals in the area of Islamic management and Islamic marketing. Try to put everything in one roof. So for example, if you say, okay, let's say Islamic tourism. Okay, search. Then you will have all these different topics. So you have business ethics, corporate governance, decision-making, entrepreneurship, blah, 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 blah. So the idea is to make it very easy for anybody interested in Islamic management to find any material related to a particular topic. Okay. So we are still in the process of building this. Probably by the end of the year, we estimate that there will be about 2,000 articles under one roof. So if anybody is interested, you just click. You will have to send an email. We will add you as a subscriber, and then you can start using this service, inshallah. And the time is exactly 9:45. So alhamdulillah, I have finished my amana. Thank you very much to everybody. Assalamualaikum wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Dr. Redwan. Inshallah, we will see you next time. Thank you for your presentation. Wonderful presentation, mashallah. Okay, next, Dr. Nur Arfifah, are you here? Doctor?
Okay, Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Yes, sure.
Okay.
Doctor, can you
the
try
internet
to
is clear, right? Okay, I will try this. I will share the slides. Bismillah. Can you see my slide?
Yeah. Not yet. Yeah,
Can
yes. Can you make it
uh,
full screen?
okay, let me just okay.
Okay. Oh, already appear full screen, Doctor. Okay, next,
Okay.
Dr. Nur Arfifah Abdul Sabian. Doctor will share with us today the topic regarding ethical leadership for business management. فليتفضل مأجورة دكتور.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin. Wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Allahumma aftah alaina hikmataka wa anshur alaina min khazaini rahmatika ya arhamar rahimin. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wa hlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Amin. Ya rabbal alamin. Alhamdulillah. Would like to thank our Miss Moderator and Dr. Ridwan as usual for very good lecture, enlightening, and it's also I'll also be my lecture today will be the continuations with the foundation start with by Dr. Ridwan. Okay, what I will share today is the topic on ethical leadership for business manager. Okay, before we before we go to the rest of the lecture, we'd like to recap on the topic that we start. I think this is the third week. On the week first and week second for the second module presented by Dr. Zarina. She started with the internalizations of the ethics, and then how the Western ethics, the Western ethical theories, and then I continue with the Tauhidic paradigm, which is this is the thing I recap. The session one, which is my part, starting for the Islamic ethical system, we discuss about the Tauhidic paradigm, which is 31st May, yeah, and then last week, Sharia foundations, yeah, and then now today is ethical leadership. So why I'm recap the topic, because I want to help myself and all of the audience to see as overall what actually we discussed related to Islamic ethical system. Okay, for the first topic is the Akidah. We discussed about the worldview, about the Akidah. We discussed also the importance of the three essential concepts in Islam, which is Islam, Iman, and Ihsan. And why? Because that will goes back to prepare all of us, with the internal mindset, why we do, So we are doing this for what, So we understand from the Tawhidic paradigm, we do have the always continuous relationship with Allah as a servant of Allah, and then at the same time we also acknowledge that Allah assign all of us in this world as a trustee, Khalifah, to fulfill our obligations. And all of us in this world, we do have potentials that Allah instilled within all of us for us to discover, for us to get to know ourselves, why I'm here, what can I do to serve my purpose in this world. Okay, so the second net connection is not stable, right? Is my voice clear? I try to change to using my hotspot. Right there.
Okay, better, Doctor.
Wait, I change using my hotspot is better than. Actually, I'm in the mid of moving out. Okay, I start. Okay, so Sharia as a foundation for work culture. Dr. Ridwan mentioned about the importance of establish a work culture, which is very important. The work culture not by force, by understanding. Everyone agree on that. And then how to start as a Muslim managers and Muslim leaders. We can start by using by following the guidance of the Quran and Sunnah, which is the Sharia foundation itself. Yeah, so Allah come out with the rulings, yeah, the rulings, the do and the don'ts, yeah, something that Allah recommend, yeah. So we also need to understand the maslahah, the rights, fulfill the rights. And when it comes to process, culture is also related to the process, how you want to develop what kind of work culture, yeah, in the company that you want to do. So this is also related to Sharia foundation. And Sharia is not only Amar Ma'ruf, and as mentioned also by Dr. Ridwan in the lecture today, it consists of Amar Ma'ruf wa Nahi Anil Munkar. So there are many people who can call for Amar Ma'ruf, but what about Nahi Munkar? Nahi Munkar, not necessarily you have to scold people, you have to punish people. Nahi munkar, when you're able to say that this is wrong, yeah. Even many people's the mass or the systems are already accepted or normalized. This is what business are doing, but you know that's wrong. You have the courage to say that no, this is wrong because of Allah said this, Sunnah said this. This is the culture that we want. Yeah? So this is the culture based on Sharia foundations. How we do things properly. Properly means refer back to the epistemology, the source of knowledge. The source of knowledge in Islam is Quran and As-Sunnah. Or what about if I'm a manager, I don't know about Quran and Sunnah? Quran provide the solution. You can ask the expert. So you can hire people who have knowledge, ability to advise you. Yeah? So that's the thing that you can do. And then the third is today, inshallah, ethical leadership. We will focus on the how we want to apply the value. Yeah, we look at simple. I give you examples, and then what are the tools. And the questions that we want to answer is how manager lead ethically and inspire others. Yeah? So as mentioned again by Dr. Ridwan, yeah, the leader, you cannot blame others. Yeah, you cannot why the system, why the government, why whatever. You can always point your fingers around. But what about you? Yeah, so you have to have the will to change, and then take actions, and all of these actions need to followed by sincerity, and that will provide the change that can sustain and people can see and people will follow, inshallah. So next is what we want to achieve today, inshallah. We want to look at ethical leadership from Tawhidic paradigm, and then what are the core Islamic leadership values. I will try to relate in the context of workplace context, and then what are the real case related. I give you simple real case in the process in the daily activities of the organizations and the applications of Tawhidic ethical leadership. Okay, why ethical leadership matters? So this is the question that we want to ask. Global ethical crisis highlights the needs of Islam worldview rooted in Tawhid. This is the solution. Islam come with the solutions. This is the verse for the Quran in Surah Ar-Rum, verse 41. Auzubillahi minasyaitanir rajim. Zahara al-fasadu fil barri wal bahri bima kasabat aydin nasi liyudhiqahum ba'da allazi amilu la'allahum yarji'un. Allah say in Surah Ar-Rum, verse 41, corruption has spread on the land and sea as a result of what people's hand have done, so that Allah may cause them to taste the consequence of some of their deeds, and perhaps they might return to the right. Okay? So why we have to start with this verse? Because we want to see why this is very important for us to become a leader from the perspective of Tawhid, from Islamic perspective, from Islamic worldview, from the example given by the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, because the corruptions look around us, not only on the land but also in the sea. I love to when I have class business ethics with my student, I will share one video lecture by Hamzah Yusuf. This is already 2019, 2017, world withered away. So this is very good. He highlight all the facades happens in this world. So why this thing? It's not only stop there. We need to think what's our role. So this is the things that we will discuss today. Based on this verse, I refer to the Noble Quran, and then this is the Tazkiratul Quran, the message that highlighted based on this verse. I want to highlight quickly. The facade happened because of deviation from divine plan. Yeah. We turn away from Allah's intended guidance, seeking unlimited material comfort, ignoring the purpose of khilafah. Yeah, so we just pick and choose. Yeah, we just take what suit with our own desire, and then the rest we don't want. So it's not like that. Yeah, kafah. Islam is kafah. It's mentioned by Dr. Ridwan again. So we need to follow the path that provided by our Creator. The second is false promise of modern civilizations. Yeah? So now 2025, if you look at the modern world, there are many theory proposed, but why still fail? Yeah? Is it because of the theory? Is it because of the tools, the technology? Because of what? That's because of the hands, because of the people, because of those who take decisions. Yeah, so it's not about all the things around. We can go for the advancements technology, but what about the people? Yeah, so the people who make decisions, the people who following the whisper of the shaitans, yeah, not following the right path, will cause the moral decay, yeah, and chaos. The third is consumerism fuel crisis. So all of us think, even we are in the business world, this is also something that we need to ponder. That's why I also agree with the lecture by Dr. Ridwan just this morning. Yeah, in terms of the fair price, yeah? It's not only about what we can gain as much as we can. Yeah, so whatever product services that you want to propose to the people, to the market, you need to really ask yourself, is it, what's the benefit to the people? Is there any benefit? Is it true? Yeah, you have to really question yourself. Or you can just, there are many people who can find anything to sell, make it market, advertise, sell to the people, even though that things are not bring not benefit to the people and to the society. Yeah. So culture of greed, overconsumptions. This is also reminded to myself sometimes now, because of whatever platform. Now before this, we need to walk to buy things. Now we just sit and then we can buy online. MashaAllah. This is also, I think, distractions. And then the last is irreversible. I'm sorry. And consequences. When business ignore ethical boundaries, focus solely on profit, they exploit business and nature. So now we have ESG, we have all the things, we want to try to save this world, but the consequence already there. So we cannot change, but we can change the people who want to proceed, lead the world to the next generations. What about guidance from the Sunnah Prophet Muhammad SAW? Hadith narrated Abdullah bin Umar, Rasulullah SAW said, this is the hadith kulukum ra'i wa kulukum mas'ud. I read the translations. Yeah. Surely every one of you is a guardian and is responsible for his charge. The imam, ruler of the people, is guardian and he is responsible for his subject. A man is a guardian for his family, household, and is responsible for his subject. A woman, which is me, is the guardian for her husband's home and his children and is responsible for them. And the slave of a man is guardian for his master property and is responsible for it. Surely every one of you is a guardian and responsible for his charges. So when we look at this hadith, there are a lot of discussion. There are very many good lectures also on this hadith. Yeah? So we can see that Prophet Muhammad SAW told us, so every one of us, we cannot escape from responsibilities. Yeah. So I don't have family. I'm not imam. I'm not working. I'm just by my own. But you also a guardian to yourself. Yeah. Allah favor with all the sons, all the abilities. Yeah. And that's also something that you have to be responsible with. So when we understand this, so what will be the impact? Yeah? But before that, I'll just recap. This is definition. I just add this definitions from when we teach management. Yeah? So this is the one of the topic is leadership. So I just shared the definition so that this also can guide the discussion. Quick definitions of leader: someone who can influence other and who has managerial authority. So there are many people can influence other, but they don't have managerial authority. Yeah. So they can have they fit the definition but not hold the definitions. But who is the leader? The leader who have the power, managerial authority, and he also can influence other to go towards achieving the goal set by the organization. So leadership, when we mention the leadership, is involved process. Process of what? Process of influencing a group of people to achieve a goal. So if you are husband, you become a leader of your household. So you need to influence all your wife, your kids, yeah, your family members towards the goal that's set by you for the household. For example, like if you say we are here to please Allah alone, we need to do whatever things you can. This is the boundaries, everything. So that's examples in the household context. What about the business? The business, it will relate to all the direct stakeholders involved with you as a leader, your employees, yeah, your suppliers, and other stakeholders that requires process of influencing. So leadership from Tawhidic paradigm. So now we look at leadership from Tawhidic paradigm. What is Tawhidic paradigm? If you look at Tawhidic paradigm, actually, it's the pattern of thinking that we set ourselves we are as a servants of Allah. We are servants of Allah based on the concept of Tawhid. Everything needs to be revolved in pleasing our Creator. So leadership is not merely a social or managerial function, but scared trust, amanah, grounded in the belief that all power, authority ultimately belongs to Allah, and human leadership is delegated stewardship, khalifah, to ensure justice, mercy, and the realizations of divine value on earth. Okay, when you look at these definitions, if you are CEO, if you are prime minister, if you are even whatever, the leader of a country who have a very huge power, whatever, but still you are only a trustee that Allah give you delegated stewardship to ensure justice, mercy, and realizations of divine value on the earth. But when we see how people start to when you become leader, you feel that you need to be treated. Yeah, people need to please you. People need to whatever provide to you. That's not you. When you become a leader, you should the one who serve the people, ensure the needs of the people around you. Yeah. So because you are the guardian, as mentioned by the hadith by Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So all power, authority ultimately belongs to Allah, and realization of divine value. This is based on this verse, Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 30, and Surah As-Sad, verse 26. So quickly I read the translations in Surah Al-Baqarah. Remember when your Lord said to the angel, I'm going to replace a successive human authority on earth. They asked Allah, will you place it someone who spread corruption and shed blood? Well, we glorify your praises and proclaim your holiness. Allah responded, I know what you don't. So even though there are many evidence that human cause the corruption in this world, but there are also people who who follow the guidance of Allah. They are the one who fulfill their purpose in this world and bring benefit to the people around them. So the next is Surah As-Sad, verse 26. We instructed him, O David, we have surely made you an authority, meaning to say the prophet of David. He have the power on the land, so judge between people with truth, and do not follow your own desires, or they will lead you astray from Allah. way. Surely those who go astray from Allah's way will suffer severe punishment for neglecting the day of prayer. So these two verses inform that Allah point all of us as a Khalifah in this world, trustee. We have the ability to manage this world by the guidance of Allah, but then we need to do it according to the truth. We need to follow the path of Allah. We cannot go astray from the ways of Allah. So this is the things, reminder related to the leadership from Tawhidic paradigm. So I want to share with all of you about the ethical foundations in leadership, because justice, the concept of justice and injustice is very important for us to understand by our respected scholar Syed Muhammad Nakir Al-Atas in the book of Concept of Religion and the Foundation Ethics and Morality. He defined what's the meaning of justice and injustice. If you look at here, okay, justice, primary way to harmonious and rightly balanced relationship existing between the man and his self. Remember, I always mention to my student, if you want to lead, first lead yourself, and then the rest, followed by the others. Man himself, and in the secondary way to such exist between him and another or others, between him and his fellow men, rulers, kings, state, and societies. So this is the things that you have to focus is harmonious and rightly balanced relationship. So human being, we tend to not balance. Sometimes when you love your work, you tend put your work first. Others, you left others. You left your family, you left your society, you left your whatever's around. So people come up with a study, work-life balance, because we want to make it balanced. But I would like to propose it's not only work-life balance. We want the role should be centered on Tawhid. So Tawhidic life balance, it could be something study we can do. I'm trying to do this. Tawhidic life balance. When you understand the role in the concept of Tawhid, you prioritize the role according to the teaching of the Quran and Sunnah. You know what's your priority. So you know when to stop related to your work, when you have to serve your family members. For example, injustice, putting in a place not on its own. It is misplacing a thing. It is to misuse or to wrong. It is to exceed or to fall short of the mean or limit. It is to suffer loss. It is to deviation from right course. It is disbelief what is true or lying about what is true, knowing to be true. So if we want to see injustice, not only in terms of the measurement, injustice related to right, but if you look at the definitions, put someone not at a proper place, that's also injustice. That's why as a manager, as a leader in organizations, you cannot just hand over to everyone. You have to take charge. When you hire people around you, you have to get to know all the peoples, as best as you can, by maybe assign people that have knowledge. You deliver what you want. By having the right people, you place them at the right place, then these people can uphold the justice in your organization. But then if you put people because of you favor, because of cable, because of whatever reason, not because of the criteria, because of the competency of the people, so the people unable to do their job at the positions, and then it will affect others in the organization. So that's also another form of injustice. So that's example, simple. You when you appoint a leader, and then the leader always assign other people go on behalf of him or her for a meeting, which is wrong. You are appointed to become a leader because of a set of capabilities that you have in terms of the wisdom, experience, and people, when they conduct a meeting, they spend time calling other people, they have to discuss and make a decision, but you send other people to represent you, which is not capable to make a decision. That's also another way of injustice. Okay. Knowledge is a key for ethical leadership. When you understand, justice is put things at a proper place. Not only things, being also people, the positions. So how to decide based on knowledge? when a man does act of injustice, it means he has wronged his own soul, for he has put his soul in a place not its own. Yeah, misuse, he has made it exceed or fall short of in the real nature, cause he has got to deviate from what is right, and it caused to the suffer loss. Yeah, so this is the impact when you act in term of in the form of injustice. So what about this? The next is all of his he has thus done in one way or another and thus violations to his covenants with God. So okay, it's not only about you are the boss, you are the employee. No one see you. Yeah, your friends cover what you've done, but actually you violates the covenants with your creator, because we are the trustee. Whatever positions that Allah give us in this world, this is also a reminder to dear myself, whatever, not only in organization, in your family, in your whatever, Allah put you there. Allah is the one who decide you are there when He assigns you at the place. And then we have to always aware with the when you subscribe to Tawhidic paradigm, it's not about you and other people, your boss, your family and everything, your friends, but you and your creator. So both justice and injustice imply knowledge of right and proper place of a thing or a being to be. Yeah. And that's why whenever you want to apply this, yeah, you need to acknowledge that knowledge occupies a most important position in Islam. So by having knowledge, then you can distinguish what is right, what is wrong, what is now, especially in the midst of digital world, there are a lot of fake knowledge and news about everything. That's why you have to have knowledge to be able to distinguish, and we also need to always make dua, may Allah show us the right path. So this is the importance. As a leader, you cannot say that knowledge is not important. You cannot say that I'm being a leader because I'm very good in making business and profit. No, not necessarily. You also need to equip yourself with the other knowledge. That's why become a leader is not stop you at one point. You always need to continue to equip yourself with the right knowledge and ability, skill, so that you can manage your organization successfully. So now we look at the concept of role. Why we need to understand the concept of role? Because being a leader, you also need to understand your role. What actually my role as a leader? Yeah. So this is all the explanation here. But what I want to highlight is first, structured set of relationship. When you have certain role, now ask yourself, what is my roles? Now, what kind of role that I am having? Maybe you can start jot down. Okay, I'm as a first servant of Allah, as a husband, as a wife, as a daughter, as what? This is also exercise that I did with my student in my class. And then now you involve in business as a leader, as a manager, as whatever. So when you have the role, and the role, they come with a set of structured relationships. Yeah. So next is directly related to social responsibility. Yeah, you have the responsibility. And then, okay, this one, I got it. Business manager, leader have significant roles to play. Not only that, you're not only responsible for your organization, but you're also responsible for the economic growth, prosperity, and well-being. Okay. Business manager, usually you are as academic actor. Yeah, you want to ensure the profit because of the right of the shareholder. Yeah. Managers as company leader, trustee, yeah, and then manager as community leaders. Now you not only enough lead your company, now you also need to contribute to the communities. Yeah. So people want to see what's the impact of your companies to the communities. So when you understand this, with regard to ethical leadership, yeah, there are two pillars: moral person and moral managers. So these two pillars important because individual learn appropriate behavior through role modeling process. Yeah, so you cannot deny when while you're in the process of upbringing, yeah, you see around people around you, your parents, your friends, your teachers, and then when you enter your career world, you also see around, yeah, you try to follow, yeah, some model that you believe this is inspired you to success. So these two pillars emphasize that ethical leadership involves holding ethical value, fostering an environment that promotes them among others. Okay. So when I share you with the moral person and moral manager, I want to highlight from personal development to corporate governance in the context of ethical leadership. Moral person, personal development, yeah, continuous self-reflection, continuous learning, yeah, build sincerity in class, intention, actions. This is example of the personal development that you need to continuously work out on that. Yeah. So even you already success, you already 50 or manage a company, this is the thing that continuously need to be done because of the personal improvement and task awareness, so that you can see better what is right and wrong, and you will gain the wisdom. Yeah. What about the moral manager? In terms of the corporate governance, which is later detailed by Dr. Zarina next week, embedded Sharia governance framework. So you start to have as mentioned in the previous class, Sharia is the foundations, and so what are the core values? What are the code of ethics? What are the rules and regulations? What are the ways do things? Yeah, you have Sharia board, you have internal audits. Yeah, in terms of the human resource practice. Yeah, in terms of the finance documents, there are process that you have to follow accordingly because of the you don't want to take others' right. Yeah, you need to fulfill all the rights that you need to fulfill related to the process. Yeah, reporting accountability not only to stakeholders of the company but also to Allah. And then when you understand these two pillars, it shows the link you personal ethics and the organizational ethics. It cannot separate. Yeah. So moral persons is very important, but moral person without system, you cannot do a lot of things in the change of to change the corruptions happens. Yeah? You need system. You need the system that can support you. Yeah? So this thing need to work together. Okay, now I go back to the tree. Remember tree, yeah? The tree that I show you. So for the first class on Islamic ethical system, we discussed about the Tawhidic paradigms, focus on the Tawhid. Yeah, we understand the three essential concept of Islam, Iman, and Ihsan. And then the previous class, we understand the Sharia, Maqasid Sharia. We also know there are tools, Qawaid Fiqhiyah, that can help manager to make a decision. So what about now? Yeah, now we want to see in terms of the leader. What are the things that can what are the criteria for the credibility of a leader? And this is one part I thought I got it from the business communication subject, which is 3C. Yeah, first competence, care, second, and character. So if you look at the model here, yeah, intellectual capital, emotional capital, spiritual capital. Intellectual capital, in terms of the competency, you need to know the knowledge to find whatever functions, how to do things, yeah, in terms of the strategic vision, whatever decision, whatever related to the intellectuals, how related to your business, you need to acquire the knowledge as best as you can. But then there are many people who very good in terms of the cognitive ability, but they are unable to have empathy with their employees, with the people in the organization, which is related to the second care, emotional capital. So Prophet Muhammad SAW taught us, it's not enough you tell people what's the right and wrong, but you also need to care. You also need to be empathy with the people. You need to listen. You need to be able to listen to the people. Yeah? So this is the emotional capital needed by a leader, which is care, then can build up the credibility of the leader. And the last is spiritual capital, which is this is the value that can develop the character of a Muslim leaders, which is based on taqwa and based on sincerity. So this is the how it relates to this tree. Remember, this is now you are here at the branch. There are many rules that you are holding now, right? So how you deal with all the stakeholders around you, yeah. With this, inshallah, by 3C, yeah, with your competence, your care, and then the right character, you respect the people, inshallah, you can be inspired leader for a change. Yeah. So what are core values about Tauhidic leadership? Okay, I have another 9 minutes. Quickly, adab. Adab, proper conduct, manners. This is also related to the justice. Know the proper place of things, respect hierarchy and role. You cannot say that, oh, Islam, we need to, everyone is the same. Yes, everyone, you have to respect everyone, but everyone with at their own place, rank. Yeah? For example, teachers, students, there are rank. Yeah? Organizations, CEO, top management, middle management, they are rank. Rank is not to say that they are better, but they are ranked with a specific set of responsibility. And all those responsibility with when the people at the certain rank, they should equip with certain experience, knowledge, abilities that can make them suitable to that place. Yeah? For example, professional communications, avoiding gossiping or humiliation. So this is simple example that I give. Yeah? For example, in organizations, yeah, you have to respect. Sometimes this is always happen in organization. When you listen from the top management, you have to pause and listen. You have to be patient. Yeah? So because in the context of lower management, middle management, we don't see the whole picture. And the top management, when they make certain decision, they see all the factors. But then sometimes, me myself, sometimes we are reflection, we don't have the patience. We look from our perspective only. We only care about our rights. We don't see the others right that need to be fulfilled as by the leader of the organizations. Then later when you become the leader, then you realize, yeah. So the second, I'm sorry about the number. So first, accountability. Yeah, I will edit this slide before sister. First, accountability, the mas'uliyah, answerable to Allah. The second, you need to uphold the justice, yeah, in terms of the fair distribution of right, treatment, staff, supplier, no discriminations, promotion, pay. This is always happens, yeah. So you have to be as best as you can, try. Yeah. So how to be just, you have to acquire understanding about your role first. Sometimes you have to ask people who experience what actually they're doing, but sometimes you ask people one thing, but not only rely on that, you have to go back to the source, maybe the reference. Oh, the practice of the people are not according to the guidelines. So you have to change. Sometimes when we refer to the seniors do as what they believe but then they are not following the manual. So you have to not only refer to the people, but also refer to the reference. So the third is adab, which is I already mentioned, and then rahmah, compassion and empathy. So this is the example by Prophet Muhammad SAW, lead with mercy. Yeah? This is one of the things that I got with my recent gathering with Murabis. And then why we state the Surah Al-Fatihah, Alhamdulillah, why Allah introduced him as Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. Allah introduced him with the name of Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. And because of the mercy, because of Allah's mercy, we can live our life now. Because even though there are a lot of mistakes that we done, but Allah still give us another opportunity every day to improve ourselves. What about we when we become a leader? You need to be rahmah too, flexible. When you see there are needed among your employees, why not you become more flexible? Welfare. When you care, you trust, and then inshallah, a good employee will return the trust appropriately. But no wonders, there are people who take advantage. That's normal in organizations, But usually people who take advantage, not many. But you have to be mercy those who follow the guidelines, those who struggles, be mercy with them. For those who, again, the rules and regulations, then you can take actions. This is when a warning needed. This is when punishment needed, because they are not they are unable to decide by themselves, then you need to other mechanism to help them. Yeah. So the last is character and value. This is also by Eclipse book, yeah, from Prof. Syed Ahmad Ali. Why I highlight this? Yeah, there are four cardinal virtues: wisdom, courage, temperance, ifah, purity, justice. This is this four key source of virtues is something that we have to look at. And you, when you go further study about this, I ask you to study further about this. Then you can see what's other values related to these four cardinal virtues: wisdom in terms of the hikmah, knowledge, courage. There are many people who coward. You know that's the decision. You have to make a decision as a leader. You have to be courage to make decision. Even many people not agree with you, but you know that's the right thing to do. You have knowledge. You already have the informed kind of decisions. You have to make decision and then start and then inform others. And so the courage that goes the same to the family, go to the society. And when we lose the courage, and then people who are not have the wisdom will lead the society and the world. Okay, the root vices and destructive to leaderships. Something that we need to ponder is, example like lying, breaking promise, betraying trust, slander, which is common now, angry, hasad, avarice, you stingy. So this is the example of the root vices and four cardinal virtues. What I want to do is I'm introducing to you, I propose you to read a blue book, Eclipse Leadership by Syed Ahmad Ali and Prof. One, and this is something that you can go. There are a lot of evidence from the story of the Khalifah before this, and then this is also can become something that can we can learn. We can always relate to the current scenario. And then the last, what we want to take away and today is we understand that in Islam, leadership in Islam rooted in Tawhidic worldview, because it's amanah and dedicated stewardship. And this is the first we need to acknowledge. The second, core values like accountability, justice, adab, rahmah, guide Muslim manager, decision action, ensuring fairness, compassion, respect in workplace. So we are not perfect, but we are all, when Allah gives us another day, it's another day for us to improve in terms of the all these core values. How to internalize these core values? Tadabbur, listen, knowledge, and continuous learns. And then when you spread to your colleagues, your company, that's also can create a culture. Not only you, but your employees also aware, and all of you will work towards that culture that you want to create. And then the last is true ethical leadership begin with personal integrity. First, ourselves. And then extend to the organizations, moral manager, and then later followed by the accountability to Sharia compliant corporate practices. So when you look at this, always start with the will of the leader. When you want, you can hire the right people and you can establish decision according to the Sharia. And then when you already have the system, you have to continuously create the culture of knowledge. When you do that, you actually preparing your employees so that everyone's at the same page towards the goals that you want to go. Inshallah, you can have the culture that you want. Inshallah. Thank you very much. And now time is up.
Thank you very much, Doctor.
Okay.
Should we give Q&A?
Okay, do you have question?
Anyone have question? You can raise up your hand.
Okay, I try. I'm not the perfect person to answer. Okay.
Or you can write in the chat box here.
Alhamdulillah. No question. Alhamdulillah.
Very thank you, insightful sharing.
Okay.
Maybe they don't have a question. All thank you, Doctor.
Okay, Alhamdulillah. I'm sorry for any shortcoming from my part, and actually whatever things that I share with you, the first goes back to me. Yeah? So it's also a first reminder to myself, and let's us together to improve ourselves, to become a leader to ourselves, and inshallah can fulfill our role and whatever positions that Allah assigned us in others in other roles. I think that's all. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Doctor.
Okay, so I should stop present.
Okay, now we have 30 minutes for break. Inshallah, we will come back at 11. first, Doctor?
Yeah, sure.
Sorry to ask, Doctor. This is the first time for presentation, Doctor?
Yeah,
Okay.
I was the moderator last time, but never saw that.
For present today is the first time.
So is it visible now?
Yeah, now appearing. Make it full screen, Doctor. Okay. Maybe because this is the first time, let me introduce you a little bit, Doctor. Just a,
Sure.
uh,
Sure. Sure.
okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Before we start our next session, inshallah, let me introduce a bit about our lecturers in this class, inshallah. This is Associate Professor Dr. Syed Ahmad Ali. He is an assistant professor in the Department of Business Administration at the College of Economics and Management Science at IIUM. As an IIUM alumni, he brings over 14 years of academic and corporate experience to his role. He has he has held leadership position including director of SM and PhD program and head of management department at the University of Management and Technology. Inshallah, today he will share the lectures with us regarding the topics personality and value. Without further ado, Doctor, falyatafaddal ma'jura. You have 45 minutes, Doctor. You can leave 5 minutes for Q&A if you need.
Thank you. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, everyone, and very good morning. I am very pleased and honored to be here as a presenter, although I was the moderator in the previous session, and I would like to thank IIIT for providing me the opportunity to present. And thank you very much, the moderator, for introducing me to the audience. Without any further delay, I would like to start our presentation with the learning objectives today, which we are going to discuss. We're going to learn about the values and defining the values, since this topic is about personality and values from an Islamic perspective. So first of all, we learn what are the values and how we're going to define. Yes?
The sound a little bit slow.
Okay. So is it
Not
okay?
slow. Yeah. But,
Is it better now?
yes.
Okay. So we'll be first of all laying down the values. What are the values? And we will define them, and then we will differentiate between different types of values, followed by the understanding of values from an Islamic perspective. The same goes with the personality and its types. And we are going to learn the personalities from an Islamic perspective. So the very first question, if you see the slide, the very first question is, which I name as $1,000,000 question, how personality is developed. And if you see, I have highlighted personality in different shades, different colors. The reason behind is that as a student of social psychology, I have not seen one single personality so far in my entire life who is very similar to another. Yes, there are many similar traits, but the personalities per se are not that similar. There are certain differences. And why there are differences, and why there are, you can say, a lot of differences in their thinking patterns, the way they behave, is because their situation is different. This is the second question that leads to the same scenario, that Does situation change our values? Does situation change our personality or has any impact on our personality? So if I explain a little scenario, imagine that if uh, just a case of imagination, that just a hypothetical question. Uh, if someone is looking at a uh, on a roadside or a rail side where five people are eating on the roadside and a big trolley or big truck is about to hit them, and you have to save them, save these five people, but you are despite you try your best, you are not able to save them. Um, this is one situation because you wanted to try, but you can't save all five of them. Yes, you can save one or two, but you can't save five because the truck is a high-speed truck and it is coming and like abrupt running of the truck. It can hit any time to the innocent people who are sitting on the roadside to eat something. And the entire situation changes when your son or your daughter is there. Because earlier you were thinking about them, but you are not thinking too much about them, and you are not thinking out of the box about them because there were no feelings or emotional attachment associated with those strangers. But the moment you know that your son is among those five people, then you start, your heart races a lot, and then your mind start thinking out of the box. I should do something extraordinary. So this is the importance of situation. The moment situation changes, the moment our decisions change, and so as our personality and so as our underlying values. Now, as a Muslim, we know that there are two basic sources of knowledge. One is called divine knowledge, which is a knowledge straight away given by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the second knowledge is the acquired knowledge. And the acquired knowledge is the one which humans acquire by scientific developments. Of course, the divine knowledge and the acquired knowledge both are compulsory, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through Rasulullah mentions that طلب العلم فريضة على كل مسلم ومسلمة. That means that every single one of us, it is binding upon us that we must learn knowledge, we must get knowledge, we must acquire knowledge, be it the divine knowledge or be it the acquired knowledge. So if we go further, there are three basic types of acquired knowledge. One, all these three types of acquired knowledge are published in different research articles so far as the scientific inquiry has developed. So the three basic types of acquired knowledges is number one, the genetic knowledge. Second is the content knowledge. And the third one is the process knowledge. Now, the genetic knowledge is the one which we receive right at the inception once the zygote is formed. Those who know biology or those who have some understanding what zygote is the embryo when the sperms and the whenever the sperms enter into the womb of the mother, and that forms an egg, and that forms basically the baseline of the baby formation. At that time, all the genes, all the knowledge through genes is transferred to the baby. But this knowledge cannot be more than 50% because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made every single human being different. So as our, our body, our faces, even the thumbprints are different. No two human beings are same. I don't know, there are theories about 1 in a million or 2 in a million, but the thumbprints are not even same. So this is the genetic knowledge which differentiates each one of us from each other. The second is the content knowledge. Now, there comes the important part about the content knowledge. Since I've seen the twins And the triplets, sometimes the parents have triplets, sometimes the parents have twin babies. The twin babies, even they are not same. And why I am emphasizing on the content and the process knowledge, because as a human, we have different understanding. As a human, we have different preferences. As a human, we have different tastes, different habits. And all these things are different as far as the content we see, as the content we go through in our life. The shared experience, the lived experience is different always. The content is different from process, because even the two babies, those are twins, it is highly unlikely that they go through the same process. They have the similar friends. They wear the same clothes or the same color they like. So it's very different. All these three things make us what we are at the moment. The genetic knowledge which we have received from our parents, the content knowledge which we have gone through our life, and the process knowledge through all the processes which we have gone through our lives. So all these three things, it's basically a worldview, the way we see the world. And here comes the important part, which will be covered later on in some other weeks, in some other sessions, where the two humans got into conflict. And why they got into conflict? Because most of the times the underlying value or the underlying preferences are not same. Sometimes they think that this can be done this way, but the other person thinks otherwise. Why? Because again, his genetic content and process knowledge is different. The kind of process or the whole the mechanistic person or the mechanism in the brain of that person is developed this way, that he thinks the way he is doing is best. He's learned that from his surrounding, from the content and process. So this is how our values are established. So if we are going to define what values are, the values basically are the basic convictions about what is right, good, or desirable. And we see each one of us is different in terms of what we think as right, what we think as good, or what we think as desirable. But there are different value systems in each society. And each society is different because the combination of different values, the combinations of different individuals form a society. And since a society is made because every single individual interact and react to a certain situation, we have a combination of values. So there are certain values which are laid down. These values are derived from certain norms. And what are norms? Norms are the normal practices. The normal practices which we practice every single day, so that, or so much so, that all the people in our surrounding, all the people in that particular society, they get accustomed to perform that specific thing in that specific way. And whenever there is a violation of that normal practice, we start feeling that there is a violation of the value. This is how the value system is so important in our society. But since we are talking about organizational behavior, the values within the organization, so the values within the organization are also important, because once again, the organization provides a specific environment and ambience. And every single organization is different. The same way every single country is different, or every single society is different. Even in Malaysia, there are 3 different sets of values laid by Malays, Chinese, and Indians. All these 3 important ethnic backgrounds, they have different values rooted in their forefathers, or rooted in the practices in their social circumstances. So the values are different in each organization, depending upon the number of people, depending upon the size of the organization, depending upon the structure, depending upon the nature of activity which the organization carries out. And values lay the foundation of understanding of attitudes and motivation. Why? Because values establish that how much one person is going to push himself or herself in attainment of a specific goal. Values will determine that how good or bad my attitude will be, because attitude never comes alone. Attitude always comes along with an attitudinal object. Your attitude towards your parents is different, and your attitude towards your siblings is different. Your attitude towards a shopkeeper or a storekeeper is different. Why? Because of the values associated with it. So every single attitude is different because of the attitudinal object, and that basically establishes at that point of time that what will be our behavior. So indirectly, we can say that values influence our attitudes and behaviors. There are two different types of values. The two important types of values are terminal values and instrumental values. What is terminal value? A terminal value is the one which is a desirable end state of existence, which exactly says that what you want this world or society to be. This is the terminal value. That means this is the ultimate value which you want people to have, which you want people to opt or adopt. Whereas the instrumental values are the ones which are the preferred modes of behavior or the means of achieving terminal values. That means that instrumental values are the ones who help creating the terminal values. Besides, there is another important value as we have came across the last 10, 15, 20 years, which is called the generation values. And why generation values are now becoming more important and pertinent? Because if you learn the behaviors, and you might have noticed all these behaviors by yourself, as far as your parents are concerned, and you are concerned, and your children are concerned. So there are three important generations: your parents, you, and your children. And you'll find there is a difference in their values, the way they see the world, what is their worldview, what is their perspective. They are different from each other because the surrounding is different. The surrounding in which your parents were brought up was different. The surrounding in which you were brought up is different. And the surroundings in which your children are now bringing up, they are different. It is different. And what actually has happened before, you can understand the scientific development was not that much at the time of your parents. At your time, when you were growing up, I'm talking about the millennials exclusively. So the millennials are the ones who have witnessed the internet boom, and they have learned the 3G, 4G, even the 5G technology. And now the upcoming generation Alpha, Generation Z, they are the ones who are who were born after the boom of this internet, and it is in their blood, it is in their genes what actually they do, the way they think, because this is the time of technology and internet and all these modern scientific developments. So that is how they have molded that is how their values are transformed. Earlier, an online session used to be or is known to be a not so interesting thing. But now, an online session is the need of the time, just like we are having this online session. So these terminal values, instrumental values, and the generation values are very much important as far as the personality of a person is concerned, because that are eventually linked with personality, which is the next topic, the personality, because we're talking about the values and personality today. Although it's been a very short time, we have almost 40 minutes, 35 to 40 minutes. I'll try to explain as much as I can. So the values are linked with personality. They are, we can say that they are absolutely necessary or absolutely existential for each one of them. whether values are incomplete without personality or personality is incomplete without values. What is personality? The personality is the total number of ways in which an individual reacts to and interacts with the world around him or her. That means that all the ways, the accumulative sum of ways through which you react to every single situation, every single individual, any single object within your life. Because what actually happens when you react and interact, you learn something, you have an experience, you develop an experience, which we call the shared experience or the lived experience. There are certain traits or the characteristics through which we can learn what are these personalities, because personalities are divided into different types. We have different categorization of personalities. The four more common personality assessments are MBTI, which is known as Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, the Big Five personality traits of the Ocean model, DISC test, and the Enneagram test. So we'll be covering the first two, the MBTI and Big Five, because we don't have much time to explain all these four different other types of personality categorization. Although I can tell you that the DISC test and the Enneagram test are also very popular in the corporate sector. It depends that which corporate or which organization likes which personality assessment. So it's not always that you have to be inclined with MBTI or a Big Five all the time, but Enneagram test categorizes or divides the personality into 9 different types, whereas the DISC stands for dominance, influence, conscientiousness, and steadiness. So there are different other tests other than MBTI, Big Five, DISC, and Enneagram, but we'll be covering only first two. The first one is MBTI, Myers-Briggs Type Indicator. So it is basically known as the Myers-Briggs, the scientist who, or the behaviorist who gave this idea of MBTI personality indicators. This test divides basically into 4 different basic categorization of personality. Number 1 is the valuing set, the valuing quadrant. If you see here, the valuing quadrant, this is the valuing quadrant, the green one, and the blue one is the visioning quadrant. The third quadrant is the SF, which is relating, and the fourth one is directing. And we have 4 different criteria. Number 1 is the personal criteria. The second one is the possible criteria. The third one is the logical criteria, and the fourth one is the present criteria. And out of these, MBTI, we have 16 different personality types. If you see each square in each quadrant has 4 different personality combinations: ENFJ, INFJ, INTJ, ENTJ. All these are different types, and they are combinations of these 4: NF, NT, ST, SF. All these criteria are basically related to whether you value a specific thing, whether you give a specific vision to a specific inquiry or a specific query, whether you can relate something to a specific happening in the past or in the present, or whether you can direct something with logical understanding of any situation, any situation which you come across. So this is how you can define this MBTI, Myers-Briggs Type Indicator. This is just for the sake of your understanding that I have given this chart, this diagram, for you to understand that how this MBTI works. I'll quickly move towards the Big Five or the Ocean model. The Big Five personality traits are also very popular among the behaviorists. To assess the personality types, we have 5 different personality traits or personality characteristics, which is also known as Ocean model. Ocean stands for O, C stands for conscientiousness, E stands for extroversion, A for agreeableness, and and for neuroticism or the emotional stability or instability. So these are the 5 different criteria based on the ocean model. Openness to experience means that the person is very open to experience new things. Conscientious personality is the one who is very reflective, always thinks about what he has done and how he can improve himself or herself. Extroversion personality is always looking for making new relationships and very extrovert kind of personality. Agreeable person is the one who always finds out the solution, tries to agree with almost all the situations he come across, whereas the neurotic person is divided into further 2 categories, which is emotionally stable or unstable or unstable personality. So these are the big 5 personality traits. And we have the questions and all the test available. Although we are not discussing the test um, as far as this session is concerned, because if I go detail in explaining the test itself, it will take a lot of time. I will quickly move towards this personality and values from the Quran and Sunnah, from Holy Quran and from the Sunnah of Rasulullah, because this is the most important part. All these things which we have learned so far, all the personality books and all the behavior related things, they are not older more than 50, 60 years ago. But the Quran and Rasulullah, he mentioned all these things in through the Quran and through the Hadith more than 1500 years ago, around 1500 years ago. So all these behaviors, all these personality assessments, all these values are mentioned in Quran. If we have the Quranic perspective, the very first thing is where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in Surah Al Imran, كنتم خير أمة أخرجت للناس تأمرون بالمعروف وتنهون عن المنكر. That means here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about that you have to cooperate with someone in the virtuous deeds and do not cooperate with others in the deeds of sins and transgression. So this is also a value which is laid down by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who is the creator. The second one is the ta'awun, which is mentioned in the second verse of Surah Al-Ma'idah, which is also known as cooperation in English. وَتَعَاوَنُوا عَلَى الْبِرِّ وَالتَّقْوَى وَلَا تَعَاوَنُوا عَلَى الْإِثْمِ وَالْعُدْوَانِ. That means you should cooperate with each other in the deeds of virtues, and you should not cooperate with the deeds of sins and transgression. And then the third one is the ihtisab, the accountability, which is mentioned in Surah Al-Zilzal. وَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ خَيْرًا يَرَهُ وَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ شَرًّا يَرَهُ. That means that gives an advice, a commandment from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that you are not supposed to do even a single harm to any single one of any single human, because the smallest of deeds, the deeds which is related to the smallest of particle, that will be you will eventually see, you will eventually face the consequences of that particular smallest deed. Similar, the same goes with the sidq, or the truthfulness, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in Surah Al-Baqarah, وَلَا تَلْبِسُوا الْحَقَّ بِالْبَاطِلِ وَتَكْتُمُوا الْحَقَّ وَأَنْتُمْ تَعْلَمُونَ. That means you should not mix the batil, that means the false information or the lies, with truth. The truth and falsehood cannot go together. And you are, as a Muslim, we are supposed to always stand with the truthfulness. Whatever truth is, you should stand with it. Whatever the falsehood is, whatever the lies is, whatever the forgery or the concealment of fact is, you are not supposed to stand with it. The same goes with Tawadu, which is mentioned in Surah Luqman, and this is one of the very famous surah and one of the very close to my heart surah, because here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions about a father, the most important part of the surah, although the surah talks about many other things. But the most important part of the surah is related to some advices given by a father to his son, whose name is Luqman. Some people say he was a prophet, some people say he was a pious man. But Sayyidina Luqman, he gives some of the advices to his son. And one of the advices, although the very first advice was shirk, that, oh my son, do not involve yourself into shirk. Inna shirk la zulmun azim. Indeed, shirk is the biggest sin, the biggest zulm which you can do, because Allah is the creator, and if you are not able to see and to recognize your own creator, what zulm you have incurred to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So in Surah Luqman, in verse 18, it is mentioned, وَلَا تُصَعِّرْ خَدَّكَ لِلنَّاسِ وَلَا تَمْشِ فِي الْأَرْضِ مَرَحًا. The translation is that you should not be, the mafhum of the translation is that you should not walk on this earth with arrogance and pride. Rather than you should always seek humility, tawadu. This is another concept. These are all values. These are all, you can say, that the fine tweaking of every single individuality or individual personality, that you can improve your personality in light of all these divine commandments. Then in Surah Al-Imran, it is mentioned about وَالْكَاظِمِينَ الْغَيْظَ وَالْعَافِينَ عَنِ النَّاسِ, where the exclusivity of the Muslims' personality, الَّذِينَ يُنْفِقُونَ فِي السَّرَّاءِ وَالضَّرَّاءِ وَالْكَاظِمِينَ الْغَيْظَ, those who spend openly and secretly, and those who control their anger, and those who believe in forgiveness. These are the traits of a Muslim. These are the values of a Muslim society, rooted in every single individual. Then comes the concept of wasatiyya, or the moderation, from Quran, where Allah mentions in Surah Al-Furqan that وَالَّذِينَ إِذَا أَنفَقُوا لَمْ يُسْرِفُوا وَلَمْ يَقْتُرُوا وَكَانَ بَيْنَ ذَلِكَ قَوَامًا. That Allah mentions about the personality of those individuals who spend, but those who do not spend too much, and those who do not spend too miserly. That means this is an example given to us that how you're going to shape up your personality. What are the values, underlying values, when it comes to spending? The concept of wasatiyya explains that you have to establish that your spending patterns, your living patterns, your eating patterns, all things should be in moderation. The example is given through spending, that a person should be moderate in terms of spending whatever he is spending on his family, on his friends, on himself. All these things are inclusive. Then a very important thing, which is called riba, or the backbiting, and which is mentioned in Surah Hujurat, and Surah Hujurat is also is full of commandments, where Allah mentions, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu ijtanibu kathiran min adh-dhanni inna ba'da adh-dhanni ithm. What is the meaning? What is the mafhum? Most of you know that Allah mentions that the mafhum of the verse is that you should not backbite your brother, and you should not have so many zan. That means guman. That means that you should not have suspicions over someone. Whatever at the face, whatever zahir is, whatever at the face you can see someone, you should stand with it. You should not go and look in the heart of someone, because you can't look in the heart of someone. So there is no need to be very suspicious. The same goes with istihza in the first one, the very first verse of the first verse of Surah Hujurat, before this verse, where Allah mentions that Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu la yaskhar qawmun min qawmin asa an yakunu khayran minhum. The long verse which says that, oh you people, you should not insult or do mockery of the other men, and the women should not do mockery or insult the other women. Maybe they are better than you. So this is how Allah has mentioned that you should not do mockery, and you should not do istihza. You should not insult someone. Even Rasulullah mentioned in the hadith that you should not do it in just for the sake of fun. This is not permissible. And the last one from the Quran, although there are a lot of verses, I can gather a lot of references from the Quran and Sunnah, but of course I am time bound, so I would only give a very few, which is the Fahisha, where Allah is mentioned in Surah Isra about the zina, the adultery, the fornication. Allah mentions, وَلَا تَقْرَبُوا الزِّنَا إِنَّهُ كَانَ فَاحِشًا وَسَاءَ سَبِيلًا. That means you should not get closer to the adultery. You should not get closer to the fornication. Allah is not mentioning, Allah is not saying that do not do it, rather than Allah is saying that you should not get closer to it. That means anything that makes you closer to it, you should abstain from it. You should avoid. Why? Because all these things are will end into the, they will ruin the society. If everyone will start violating all this amr bil ma'ruf, ta'awun, ihtisab, all these things. If you are not fulfilling them or you are not abiding by them, the society will be ruined. If we go quickly from the hadith, we'll find that Rasulullah mentioned in Sahih Muslim, where Sayyidina Al-Baqarah in hadith saw Rasulullah, that he was kissing Sayyidina Hassan radiallahu anhu, and he said, "O Rasulullah, I have 10 children, but I have never kissed any one of them." Whereupon Allah's Messenger said, "He who does not show mercy towards his children, no mercy will be shown to him." So, if you see the entire deen, the khulasa or the summary of the deen is kindness and compassion, because you have to be merciful, you have to be compassionate to others. The same way, Sahih Muslim 1844, it says, "Whoever would love to be delivered from hellfire and admitted into paradise, let him meet his and faith in Allah and the last day, and let him treat people as he would love to be treated himself." That means you should treat others the way you want others to treat you. This is also a value being offered by Islam. Similarly, the kindness and ikhlaq is mentioned in the hadith, where Rasulullah mentioned that verily the most complete of believers in faith are those with the best character and whose are most kind to their families. Of course, the charity begins at home. We understand that charity begins at home. Whatever you are going to preach to someone, or you want change in the society, first bring change in yourself and then bring change to your family. Then you are able to preach it to others. Then you are able to spread it to others and to bring change in the society. The same thing goes with another hadith where where Rasulullah mentioned that show mercy and have mercy. The hadith says that the merciful will be shown mercy by the most merciful, which is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and be merciful to those on the earth, and the one in the heavens will have mercy upon you. That means if you will have mercy on others in the makhluk of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah will be merciful towards you. The last part of my presentation is the same continuation of Sahih Hadith, where there are some hadiths which are very, very emotional and very noteworthy. You should definitely pay attention to these hadiths because they are related to our personality. The characteristic of a Muslim personality is mentioned in Sunan in Tirmidhi, where Rasulullah mentions the believer does not insult others. The same way which is mentioned in the Quran, in Surah Hujurat, does not curse others, is not vulgar, and is not shameless. And you can relate the same hadith with Surah Al-Mu'minun, where Allah has mentioned the traits of a believer and the traits of those who are the successful individuals who have got success. قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ الَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي صَلَاتِهِمْ خَاشِعُونَ. Those who always bring khushu to their salah, those who do not say a word of fahisha, or those who do not say a vulgar word from their tongue, and those who are not shameless, and those who do not insult others. All these things are also mentioned in the Quran, the same way it is mentioned in Surah Tirmidhi. And then keeping a smiling face. In the same Tirmidhi, 1970, it is mentioned, every good deed is charity. Verily, it is a good deed to meet your brother with a cheerful face. If you can't, it is sadaqah if you meet your brother or if you meet your sister with a smiling face. Carry a smiling face. Then keep your tongue and hands away from people. And which is mentioned in the Sahih Hadith. Have I not informed you? Rasulullah says, have I not informed you? The believer is the one who is trusted with the lives and wealth of the people. That means he is Amin. He has the amana. And the Muslim is the one from whose tongue and hand people are saved. How many times that we violate this, we have to introspect ourselves. Then quickly, there is one famous hadith, كلكم راعي وكلكم مسؤول عن رعيته, Sayyid Bukhari. Everyone is a shepherd of the flock and responsible. Very long hadith. Just I am giving you a shorter version of it because some hadith are very long. I have made them precise. So everyone is responsible, whatever capacity he is. If he is a lecturer, he is a parent, he is a son, he is a student. In every capacity, you are responsible. You will be answerable to Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. And then the 7 great characteristics or 7 great personality traits, which is mentioned in Sahih al-Bukhari. I'll quickly give an overview of these 7 personality types. Number 1 is the just ruler who rules with justice and adl. The second is the young worshipper who worships Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at the young age. The third one is whose heart is attached to the mosque. And the 2 people who love each other for the sake of Allah. And fifth is a young man who is tempted by a young woman and he abstains by saying that I fear from Allah. And the 6th is the one who gives charity, but he conceals charity in a way that his right hand does not know how much charity he has given. The left hand is not aware of it. And the last one is one who remembers Allah in privacy and cries. So these are the 7 important traits or the values which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala appreciates a lot. The last one which I have put it deliberately because this is the last sermon of Rasulullah on Hajjatul Wida, the last, the one and only Hajj which Rasulullah performed, and he asked the Muslims to fear Allah with regards to women. Oh, you believers, I ask you to fear Allah with respect to the women because you have them. Their private parts are halal for you by the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Similarly, the same goes with your mother. Your mother is so important that a person came to Rasulullah and he asked, whom should I serve the most? And Rasulullah said, your mother 3 times. So the women in all aspects, be it your spouse, be it your mother, be it your daughter, in every single capacity, the women, we should always, try to protect them, try to fulfill their obligations. And of course, the same goes with the women, that they should protect the rights and the duties towards men. So that's all for today's presentation. I had to be very precise, I know, because the time is very short. If you have any questions, you're more than welcome. Any questions if you have, I would be more than happy to answer, inshallah. One thing I would like to share that all of you, please must go to this one, the last sermon in Sahih Muslim 12:18. You should definitely go and read the long hadith. It's a very, very long hadith. I've only taken one part of it with regards to women, but you should always go and read this. You can download an app or you can just refer to a book, Sahih Muslim. You can buy it, whatever is convenient for you. But please do read because these are the final words in a congregation. Rasulullah gave advices, the golden piece of advice which Rasulullah gave to the entire Muslim Ummah, the last sermon, which is very important for us to learn. May Allah protect us all. May Allah enable us to improve our personalities and improve the values within ourselves individually and as well as collectively, because unless we will improve ourselves individually, we will not be able to improve collectively. So that's all from my side. If you have questions, you can please ask. Otherwise, I will be closing.
Thank you very much, Doctor.
Okay.
So now we open for Q&A. if there is a question to our participant, you can raise up your hand directly. Or also you can write in the chat box if we open here for Q&A now. Today, from the beginning of the lecture, nobody don't want to ask.
Maybe they need to have some coffee to boost their mind.
Yeah. No, because if they need, they can raise the hand here.
Yeah, the last time when I was the moderator, there were certain questions, but as you have mentioned today, we have less questions. Thank you very much for all the comments. I appreciate that if I can contribute some to your individual self, if I can contribute in any capacity. And please feel free if you have any questions afterwards. You can always ask my email address, and you can stay connected.
Here from one question that from Kazim Rashid in the chat box.
Yeah, the question is, I'm Rashid. My question is, how can all these values be enshrined to business ethics? Brother, the business ethics, business is one part of values, or one part of our personality, that we show our personality, or we explore the personality, or exhibit our personality. The business is one part. If prima facie, if we become a gentle person or gentleman in terms of what Rasulullah has mentioned and what the Quran guides us, if we transform our personality, then no matter it is business, no matter it is other muamalat, no matter it is obedience, no matter it is whatever it is, it will eventually be, inshallah, it will be like every single thing will be connected to the values. Like everything will be value oriented. Anything which is contradictory to Islamic guidelines, contradictory, I'm using the word, anything which is contradictory to Islamic guidelines, that cannot be a value to you. So this is a simple test. If anything is contradictory to the Islamic guidelines, that is not a value for you.
Thank you, Doctor.
You're welcome. Thank you very much, all of you.
Thank you very much for your insightful sharing today. Inshallah, we hope we can see you again. So now we have to continue for the next lecture. Aina, are you here?
Warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And my name is Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And my name is Amir Ahmad Suki, and I'm going to proceed with the module 4, which is focusing on the entrepreneurship part of
Just proceed. Just
Islamic business management. And today topics, I'm going to focus on the Islamic approaches to fundings and financing for entrepreneurs. So basically on how are you going to get the funds and financing, what is talking about the from the Islamic perspective, and how to pitch your ideas to the funders, and basically on how to get the funders. So basically for today topic, we are going to cover three parts. This is our learning outcome. So which we are going to focus on the funding and financing, on how you should understand what is funding, what is financing in the aspect of the Islamic frameworks, and what is ethical funding, and also the business pitching. So basically, when we first thing first, you have to understand the significance of securing the findings, and also the financing itself. So you need to explore and why access to capital is not just a business need, but this is basically a strategic priority for the growth and sustainability. Remember, you want to make sure that your business is sustained, especially for entrepreneurs, they who want to align with the Islamic values. So remember, in Islam, we need to manage our wealth. So basically, it is ethically in the form of ibadah. And also, we want to therefore we should focus on the ethical fundings. So you will learn on how to raise money in the Sharia compliance way, which is the first thing first, you have to avoid interest or riba, and also we want to make sure or ensure fairness and promoting in terms of risk sharing. So this is where we want to embrace the value of ethical financing, which we're going to reflect on how does Islamic finance is not only about avoiding the haram, but it is about to adding the value to the society. So basically, ethical funding support the sustainability. Most importantly, bring the barakah and also reflect the ihsan in the business. And finally, okay, so this is the most important part. After your findings, so what are the funds you that you already choose for, go for, and at the end of the day, you want to do the business pitching. So therefore, in this learning outcome, we're going to look into the guideline. What are the step by step, the strategy in order for you to fund, pitching your idea to the funder in order to get the funds from your funder. So let's begin into the understanding on building the business that are profitable and also ethical and pleasing to Allah. So first, we have to understand why financing matters for the entrepreneurs. Why you need financing? Why you want to getting a fund from the funders itself? So as entrepreneur, we are going to have often have a very great ideas, but now we want to turn the ideas into a viable business that require capital. So therefore, you need money, you need more capital. Even from Islamic perspective, wealth is a trust from Allah, and managing it is a ethically is a part of our faith. So let's break down into four types of financing matters. Why? First thing first, because of product development. You need money to develop product or service before selling them. Even when before you selling a product, so you need to have a fundings to create it. For example, you don't have enough money, but now you want to do some of the product developments. But of course, the R&D itself needs more money. For example, assume that you are the entrepreneur. Uh, Maybe in the bakery industry, for example, you want to bake the pastry, but you need funding, you need capitals in order for you to do R&D for this pastry. So you know that there's a lot of new pastry in town. So day by day, we're going to get some of the viral dessert. For example, even currently we have the fever of tiramisu, for example. But now you want to do the R&D. Therefore, you need what? You need a fund. Funds to buy the equipments or to rent the kitchens or to buy anything that related with your product development, related with your R&D. So, but instead of taking the interest-based loan, So you should apparently opt for ethical financing that following the Islamic perspective. So that's why it's really important for you, the capital itself, to develop your product. Okay, and then operations. So you need the day-to-day expenses like salary. Of course, you have to pay for to your employees, rent, utilities. These are all must cover. So these are all cannot be ignored. So even yeah, in Islam, it's an amanah to pay your employee in time. Of course, like when you are the boss, you are the entrepreneur. You have to pay for the salary. So basically, you need capitals in order for you to fund your day-to-day operations. So that's why it's really important for you to get some of the financings and marketing. Of course, like when we're talking about the product itself, if let's say you don't do marketing, so basically your product is doesn't even go to the market. So without promotions, even a great product may fail. For example, you are doing aggressive marketing, but in the same time, you need to ensure that your operations is demand versus the supply must be accordance. So even the best product could fail if no one even don't know your product. So therefore, Islam encourage Islam or excellence in spreading the goods. So marketing of your halal product is a way of inviting people to something beneficial. For example, I think some of us in Malaysia, we know the entrepreneurs like Khairul Aming that been focusing on the ethical branding in order to promote his product, which is sambal nyet, and also he has the dendeng nyet. And these some of the good marketings or ethical way of doing marketing in terms of the market your products to the customer. So you have to show that the Islamic value can align with the strategic marketing. So first you have to making sure that your product halal as well. Yeah, and lastly, in terms of scalability and sustainability, once you want to do business, you want to ensure that your business are growing. Even during this slow season, financial resilience is the key. Even in Islamic finance, resharing and barakah playing some role. So what is scalability? So basically this refers to the system or process or business ability in order for you to handle or increase the amount of work or demand, while in the same time you want to maintain or improve in terms of the performance and efficiency. So when talking about supply and demand, when you are doing aggressive marketing, you have to make sure that your business have the scalability, meaning to say that you have to ensure that you'll be able to fulfill the demands of the customer. For example, when you see the growing demands of tiramisu, for example, right? So you have to ensure that the business be able to maintain the performance or the efficiency or in terms of the quality of the product itself. Yeah, so this is really important for the customer point of view and also for the entrepreneur point of view as well. So because at the end of the day, it will affect in terms of your long-term business. Then, if let's say we want to do business, of course, we want to maintain. This is where we talk about sustain your business in a very long time. We don't want your business to you open up your business and it only maintain for 1 year only. But yeah, basically, it's a very short-term goal. But now we want to ensure that it could be sustained. Yeah. So therefore, you need financing. Yeah? You need funding in order for you to helping growth in the and also to sustain in the longer term growth. Okay, and even as a Muslim entrepreneurs, we carry not just the goal of profits, but also the responsibility of us to uphold the Sharia in our business practice. So therefore, it is important for you to have the ethical responsibility in seeking the capital. Which fund do you want to ask for? So yeah, it is limited access to Sharia compliance funding. So even sometimes even many of the entrepreneurs, they may face the challenge of finding the Islamic financing options. So therefore, they tend to look into the non-Sharia compliance. So sometimes it could be a challenge for these types of entrepreneurs. Yeah? Since you have to find the non-interest options and so on. For instance, if let's say you are the small business owner in the rural Malaysia, for example, you don't have the access to the Islamic microfinance. You don't even know on how to get to the funders itself, and also resorts to the conventional loans. So therefore, yeah, and also out of necessity. So as an entrepreneur itself, you have to ensure that you uphold this integrity, and also some of the risks of engaging in the riba-based financing. For example, like mainstream banking is usually they are often based on riba, which is haram in Islam. I think every Muslim know about this. Riba is haram, clear cut. Yeah. So Allah also has warned us in Surah Al-Baqarah. So it is maybe tempting for us to go to the fast loan with interest, but you have to compromise our faith as a Muslim that you have to avoid riba. So and also it must be aligned with the ethical ethics. Even it is hard for you to choose, but choosing ethical financing is a part of worship. At the end of the day, we want to find the barakah or the blessing. Blessing is really important. So business with the pure source of capital are more likely to succeed with the divine support. Yeah. So basically, this is what we talk about. Yeah? When we are talking about the ethical responsibility. And then and how we could secure in terms of the ethical funding through the Islamic perspective, you have to look into the overview of the Islamic finance. First thing first, we have to look into the no riba or no interest, where Islam already prohibit riba due the exploitative nature. You know that this is quite exploitative, and also it is a provident by Islam. So instead you can choose a profit sharing model like mudarabah and also murabahah. So these are the things that are actually being encouraged. And also we're talking about the risk sharing. So basically Islam promote justice. So all parties should bear some of the risk to be fair and just. So everyone must share the both profit and potential loss. So this is to ensure the fairness and reduce the burdens of one party. And yeah, and also we are talking about the ethical investment. So no investment in unethical or harmful sectors. For example, you should avoid some of the investments in haram sector, for example, like tobacco, even conventional banking. Maybe you can focusing in investing in socially benefit sectors, for example, like halal food, education, or modest fashions. Even by following these principles, yeah, you build not only a profitable business but spiritually sound one. For because we are talking about getting some of the blessing or the barakah. So it is important for us to basically try to secure some of the ethical fundings lah, to yeah Islamic perspective. And okay, so here a clear comparison. So what is riba free? So basically riba free it is Islamic practice versus the conventional loan. So when talking about conventional loans, it is a fixed interest charged regardless of profits or loss. So interest is charged no matter your business performance is, even if you lose your money, but the bank still expect you to fix repayment. So basically, in the Islamic concept, this is unjust and Islamically forbidden. So that is conventional loan. But when talking about Islamic alternative, basically profit is tied to business outcome, fairer and much more spiritually safe. Even in murabaha or mudarabah concept, where the profit and risk are shared. So is the business does well, so both will benefits the profit, right? But if not, the loss is shoulder fairly. So basically, so avoiding riba is an act of taqwa. Yeah. So it brings not only financial freedom but also spiritual peace. We have feel spiritual implications because basically we are obedience to Allah, and also it will bring the barakah. Okay. So even when choosing or accepting investment, so let's imagine that you are the investor. Yeah. You are the investor, you are the funders. What should be the criteria when talking about the investment criteria? What is the ethical investment criteria? First thing first, you have to avoid in term of the haram sector like pork. Of course, you cannot even invest in pork or alcohol, tobacco, adult content, even conventional banks. So these are all unethical practice. Yeah, even unethical practice like child labor or environmental harm. So this is also considered as unethical. So you should avoid in invest in these sectors, and also you should focus on the social responsibility. So when you are investing, you are want to ensure that we prefer the business that are benefit society, where it could create jobs, and also environmental ethics, because Islam value in giving back. So invest in venture that create a job, and also we're talking about building the community. For example, this is one project, the Pita project in Malaysia, where they hire refugee chef. Basically, when they are hiring the refugee chef, so apparently it will align the profit with the purpose. So remember, wealth is test, yeah. So we have to use our wealth, yeah, to do some of the ethical use of the money that leads to reward both in this life and the hereafter. So that's why you have to choose, yeah, the ethical investments. Yeah. And okay, where to get the funds? So these are the things. Yeah. So Alhamdulillah, even in Malaysia, so even some of the Islamic country, we have the access to the several Islamic institutions. So yeah, it can be said that it is quite we have a lot of choice. We had a lot of choices in order for us to get the some of the support, some of the fundings, yeah, some of the financing from the Islamic perspective. Yeah. So and here I divide into four types of financings, the source of financing, where we have Islamic banks. I think you are familiar with the Islamic banks. For example, in Malaysia, we have Bank Islam. Also, we have Bank Rakyat, which focusing on the Islamic options. We have a halal financing options. Even SME bank, small medium enterprise bank, also they also offer some of the Islamic financial products. So I think a lot of banks in Malaysia, even in the other country as well, could also offer some of the financing and halal loans, for example. Yeah. So this is basically halal financing options that you can opt for. So, and also, if let's say you don't want to go for the Islamic banks, you can also opt for the microfinance institution. If let's say your company is a very small company, so these types of microfinance, for example, like Amanah Ikhtiar Malaysia, they are going to help the small business with the ethical loan. For example, before this, Amanah Ikhtiar Malaysia, they are helping the women entrepreneurs in the rural areas. So these are their some of their initiative, yeah, when talking about the um, finance the small businesses. And also, we have zakat and also wakaf body. So some of the zakats, some of the states, yeah, they use zakat funds to help the some of the deserving entrepreneurs. Where what they did is that they provide funding for social enterprise, and also if let's say you need money, needy entrepreneurs. The organizations like Yapim or Maib, or and they are involving in some of the social financing programs, so which cater to the needs of the Muslim entrepreneurs and the small businesses as well. And the last one, we can opt for the SME support, for example, like the small medium enterprise support, like SME Corp. Yeah, SME Corp Malaysia, and also MARA, Majlis Amanah Rakyat in Malaysia. So they did offer some of the Sharia compliance support program. So these are the program by the government agency and some of the NGO that are going to help funding your business. Yeah? So you have to take advantage of these resources of your ethical business journey. So basically, these four that I've been listing here is the one that are basically ethicals. Yeah, they are providing some of the Islamic financing. So at the end of the day, you shouldn't have a problem. So this organization so primarily will help you to get some of the funds for your business. Okay, so now we are go to the last parts of this topic, where I want to focus on the tips for successful business pitching. Once you are going to get the loan, you already consider, okay, I'm going to apply in this funders, for example. Now you want to pitch to your funder. So it's really important for you to learn on the arts to pitching to the funders in order for them um, to give you the fund. Yeah. So now we will learn on how pitching is more than just presenting. Yeah. Basically, pitching is a social practice that involves two parties. So that's why we call it pitching. Someone will throw. So basically, who are the one who throw? The entrepreneur. We are going to throw the idea of your business idea, and someone will catch. Yeah? So who are the catcher? The catcher will be the investor. So now you want to pitch your idea to the investor, to your catcher. So basically in business, pitching is about offering your idea with clarity and enthusiasm to convince someone to invest the time, money, and also resources. Yeah. So also you want to entice the investor to provide resources. For example, like even this before, one of the Muslim billionaire in Malaysia, Tan Sri Sheikh Mota Al-Buhari, he began pitching his logistic idea to some of the local funders before they're growing into Al-Buhari Group. So basically, pitching will open the door to all the investors. Yeah? So, and also at the end of the day, you want to create the buy-in. So meaning to say that you want to gain agreement or support or commitment from the stakeholder. So it could be an idea, it could be the plan, or it could be a change. Even from Islamic perspective, our pitch should be honest and also transparent, and also focus on the maslahah or the public interest. It's not about your profit as well, but what does make your business could actually benefit to the society. So that is some of the idea of pitching. Okay, so you have to learn on the art of pitching. So usually successful pitching always involve the skills. So basic, what kind of skills? You need to communicate, you need to persuade someone. Yeah. So you have a lot of a wide range of skill. For example, listening. Sometimes the funders will ask you some of the questions. Therefore, you have to listen to the questions. Stay calm. Yeah. Stay calm. Yeah. So as a SME owner, you must speak with patience, but you have to stay calm and respectful to the funders, and also showing that you are ready for the long-term partnership. Remember, when you're asking for the funding, we need to say they become your partner. Yeah? So you have to learn on the art of negotiating, persuade, and manipulate the symbols, and also understand the body language, the body language of the funder as well. And the second one, you have to focus on the emotions. Yeah? So you have to connect with the emotion. We have a lot of emotions, but you have to manage your psychological change in terms of your moods. For example, you feel happy, sad, fear, anger, or disgust. So you have to make sure that your idea could connect emotionally to the customer or the investor. For example, you feel happy of that your business growing, but apparently you feel sad because you don't have enough capital. Yeah. So maybe you're feeling the fear of the business couldn't be sustained. So you have to show some of the emotions, but you still have to remain calm and also respectful. Yeah? And also, yeah, and you have to be creative as well in crafting your interesting sentences, because you have to convince people. Your word choice is really important. It must be concise, simple, clarity, and captivating. Even in Islam, we encourage to speak clearly and also with wisdom or hikmah, so that our creativity should not involve manipulation. We don't want to involve. We don't want to manipulate ideas, but rather you must give truthful attractions, truthful information of your business idea. Yeah? Okay, so these are the step-by-step guide for you when you want to do someone pitching. So basically, there are 5 steps. 5 steps on pitching your idea. So first thing first, you have to know your audience. So for example, yeah, always study your investor. Who are your investors? So basically, before this, we'll be talking about 4 types of investor. They are the banks, or they are the NGO. Who are they? So what kind of business that they support? For example, if let's say you are pitching to cooperative or corporasi, or Islamic bank like Bank Islam, you have to highlight in terms of the Sharia compliance model. So basically, we are talking about when we want to entering a partnership with this bank, with the investor. So that's why you need to know who are your audience. Okay, for example, like you are the entrepreneur of halal skincare brand. Now you want to pitch to SME Corp, yeah, SME corporations, basically because basically your company is still considered as the SME, but how? So you have to showcase that your product is Sharia compliance and ethical sourcing, yeah? Because you're talking about halal skincare brand. So you have to identify who are the audience, who are the investor, in order to make sure that they did support your product. And then second, your personality. So your character is really important. Your characters matters. So why? Because you want to make sure that you are likable persons. They love you before you even pitching, showing that you are friendly, showing that you are really eager to get the fund. You're really eager in your business to grow your business in ethical way. So investor to need to look at who you are, your integrity, your resilience, and how does your teams will work together? Because basically funders also considered as a team, because we've been talking about team dynamic, we are talking about partner before. So even Islam been teaches about to reflect in terms of ahlak and amanah. So basically, when they giving you the money, you have the amanah or the trustworthiness in bringing back the profits. Be sincere. You have to be sincere on your business itself, and not to be arrogant. Yeah, not to be overconfident as well. Okay, third one, you have to tell a story. So who you are, you have to present a real life scenario. For example, I'm the entrepreneur of baking industry. I have to tell the story about your business in order for them to get the gist of the idea. What is your business all about? You have to tell your experience. For example, like you can see here, we starting with 300 ringgit. I'm starting from my house, but now I want to grow my business. I want to rent a shop lot. I want to grow my business. You have to tell your experience. Yeah? So usually some of these funder, they love to hear some of the story. They love to hear the stories. Yeah. Okay. So and then you have to cover the details. What are the informations that basically the funder needs to know? Because first you already tell your story, the origins of your business, but now they want to know more details. So you have to present your value proposition clearly. Define what is the problem. For example, the problem could be you don't have enough money. You need more money. You need more equipment to buy. And how are you going to solve it? By purchase some of the equipment. And what makes you different? Remember, what makes you different from the others? What makes your business different from the others? What are the value that you should expect coming from the product? What are the value to the society as well? Yeah? Okay, so therefore you have to start with the introductions and 1H4W. So what is 1H4W? You have to look into how does your business will help in terms of the building or the benefit of the society. What is your business all about? Why you need the fund? Who? Yeah, who you should benefit, and when you want to when is the right time for you to get the funds. You have to come up with the problems, solutions, and the business model. Keep it real and also relatable. So yeah, and also you have to be clear about your business model and also the exit plan, because investor, they want to know how they will benefit, because they are going to invest the money. Even is, let's say, in the Islamic finance, you have to explain your model. So in terms of the profit sharing, the mudarabah and also the musyarakah, in terms of the joint venture, how do they benefit? Yeah? Right. And the last one, you have to show the roadmap, the roadmap itself, so the journey itself, because investor, they want to know how they will cash out in the end. At the end of the day, what should be their what should be the maximum return. So when you want to show them the roadmap, you have to provide with the timelines. So for example, goals in the future projection, 5 years from now, what do you expect? I already open up 5 branch, for example. They want to know that you are serious and strategic person. You know, at the end of the day, they've been convinced of your idea. Yeah. And also they have to relate with the Islamic value, for example, that in terms of the planning, how tadbir, and also consultation or shura. So you have to look into the roadmap. In at the end of the day, they will feel convincing, yeah, because they already have your timeline, they already see your goal, they already see your future orientation, yeah. So therefore, they're going to feel very convincing in your idea. Therefore, they could provide you with the funding. Okay, and then you have to, even before pitching, you have to research some of this. You have to research your audience. Example, what industry do they prefer? Example, like halal foods, yeah? Logistic, fintechs company, and so on. So before you know on which funder that you can go to, and also what stage do they invest in? Some of the company, even some of the funders, they are focusing on the startup company. So look into the funders that are focused on the startup. But if let's say you are in the stage of growing, you have to look into the funders that are focused on the growing. And also if let's say you are in the expansion, you have to look into the funds that focus on the expansion. So this is what you call as the, because their past investments or interest will impact in terms of their ventures. Yeah. For example, like PUNB. PUNB, they are focused on the Bumi Putra businesses. with potential to scale. So if let's say you are the SME business, you are ready, you can tailor your pitch with these of the criteria. And also you have to look into the what are the investor track records. So you have to look into the this kind of mudarabah ni. And why you have to know your audience, because you have to make sure that these funders will going to cater in terms of your business idea. Right. So even the Islamic fundings bodies, they want to see the barakah, not just the growth, but also the ethical impact of your business. Okay, and you have to pay attention to several details. For example, when you are pitching, you have to focus on your vocal technique. Yeah? Meaning to say that you have to be clear, confident, and try to avoid some of the monotone. And also, you can use some of the visual. Visual going to help you. For example, you choose infographic. For example, if let's say you are only telling us about the story of your product, but they don't know, they don't even have the idea about their product. So basically, maybe you can give some of the sample of your product, giving some of the photo of your product, using some of the infographic or success number. For example, they want to know the statistic. For example, we managed to secure what? Secure 100,000 sales for 1 year, for example. They want to look into the statistic. They want to look into the figure. Use this kind of visual. You can use infographic. And also focus on the body language. You have to smile. You have to maintain the eye contact with the funders, and also some of the posture. Yeah, and also you have to telling the stories. You have to practice in storytelling, and also talk about the technical aspect. Yeah, technical aspect of your product. Even for example, then some of these the funders, they love to use humor. They love humor. Even some of us, we prefer humor. So, taking example of this, we have a program before, which is the name of the program is Pitch at Selangor. Even some of the young entrepreneurs, they use humor and also visual to win over the judges, because usually the judges sometimes they prefer the visual, because basically it's talking about the statistic. So. And also call to actions at the end of the day, what should be the call to action, and you also have to practice. Even in Islam, delivery matters. Even Prophet Muhammad SAW was known for the soft yet firm speech and also kind expressions. So you have to follow what the Prophet Muhammad SAW did before. And when talking about the word itself, you have to speak with clarity. Right. So when talking about call to actions, so the example is that you have to focus on the words such as we have a startup trial, book for follow up. What should be the call to action? So invest in our company, for example. Yeah. So these are the things, and also at the end you have to practice. You have to be prepared for your pitch, because this is your moment. So practice makes you become more polished. So you have to rehearse in front of your camera, in the mirror, or with your friends, and how to deliver with the sharp and authentic. Make sure that it become more like not to be robotic. Because we have to make sure that you could get the attractions of the funder itself. And also you have to adopt with the growth mindset. Embrace every question. For example, sometimes they have a Q&A sessions. You have to embrace the questions and get this opportunity to learn and refine. If let's say you've been rejected, you have to learn what should be the area to improve. So you have to have a very positive mindset. And yeah, and right. So these are some of the don'ts. So what are the things that you shouldn't do? You have to avoid these some of the mistakes. For example, jargon. You have to stick to the language that at least everyone could understand. Yeah. And also, do not become a boring person. Don't be too serious. Don't be too rigid. Try to engage with the audience itself, and also tell some story. Make sure that the presentation is visually appealing. So we have to make sure that the presentation itself, you have to bring some of the ideas, and also avoid ramble. So because time is money, you have to respect the investor time. So get your point straight to the point, quickly and efficiently, and also sales wise. So basically, sales wise is a some of the pushy or aggressive sales approach. So you have to provide some of the value. So you have to make sure that because we want to avoid this, we want to avoid high pressure tactics. So help them to see how does the product or service can actually benefit them, not and also avoid overselling. So these are the don'ts. Yeah, what are the things that you shouldn't avoid? And the conclusion is that okay, you have to use a good words, keep it simple and close on the positive notes. Yeah, even Prophet Musa alayhi salam, they made a dua to Allah to for fluent speech before facing the power. So you have to basically, you have to practice, you have to pray. Prayer go in hand, and your same strategies, you have to tell stories and use humor, and at the end of the day you have to practice. Yeah? Like for example, before, yeah, so basically, because basically you have to embrace your moment. Okay, this is your moments to pitch your idea, the moments to get this funding. Yeah, yeah, and so for example, like the founders of Farm Fresh, they grew so many failed pitches. Yeah? So basically, the founder feel that okay, even though you are failed at one time, you have to learn and you have to keep trying. At the end of the day, you want to get the fun, yeah. So you have to embrace it, yeah. But you have to keep up your value and persistence, yeah. So just like Farm Fresh, yeah? Even though they fail so many times, but at the end of the day, they get the funding from Khazanah, yeah, one of the biggest funders. Yeah? And remember to pitch with integrity, faith, and also value. So therefore, the right investor will respond to you, will eventually give you some of the financing that you are really needed, yeah? In an ethical way. Remember to always focus on the Islamic funding way. All right, I think that's all for my part. So if you say you have any questions, feel free to ask the questions. Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So now we open for Q&A. Let me ask for Dr. Amira. Assalamualaikum, Doktor. Amira. Assalamualaikum, Doktor. To all our participants, because our doctor have a technical problem, let we have waiting for her about 2 minutes. He, Assalamualaikum, Doktor.
Ya, Waalaikumsalam. Sekejap. Can you hear me? Sekejap. Because I'm not sure whether you can hear. Okay?
Yeah. Sure, we hear you from here. Okay, now we have, even in the chat box, Doctor, we have the question in the chat box. And also we have, if we need the direct Q&A, here we have Brother Yusuf Abdul Karim. He's raised up his hand.
Yes, Brother Yusuf.
Yeah. So, Brother Yusuf, can you unmute yourself? Brother Yusuf, you can unmute yourself.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Waalaikumsalam.
نعم اسمي يوسف من بلد نيجيريا وأقدم إليكم شكر وأقدم إليكم يد الشكر لوضع هذا البرنامج. أنا طالب من قسم الزراعي الاقتصادي في جامعة إبادة في نيجيريا، وأنا أريد أن أسأل كيف ينظم ووضع البرنامج لما يسمى ببزنس بلان لأخذ أو لأخذ تمويل التجارة.
Brother, you can speak English? So Doctor.
Because I didn't understand Arabs.
Okay, Brother, beliau tanya macam mana kita nak, okay, speaking English, how we can manage the question he asked just now. He want to know how to manage the company. But a little bit long, I forgot. But the question started, how do we manage the, again, brother, just now
Can you translate in English, please? Because brother, I cannot hear you because your voice is unclear.
Okay, thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Thank you so much for a wonderful lecture. I am Yusuf Abdul Hakim, a student, a graduate of Agricultural Economics from the University of Ibadan, Nigeria. I want to ask about can we get a sample of a business plan which we can use to pitch for investors, for foreign investors, for foreign development, development and for foreign development public infrastructure. Okay, thank you so much.
And what was the question? How do we develop foreign development?
Yeah, I want to ask that how do we develop a business plan or a development plan to attain a foreign investment for development public infrastructure? And
Oh,
I
so
would
you're
also
talking about
appreciate of
you're talking about the business plan development. Actually, it will be covered in the other chapter as well. Because my topic are only covering the fundings because it will be a really long lecture. If let's say we want to talk about how to develop the business plan, eh? So inshallah, I think we'll cover in this in the other lecture. I think around another maybe another two weeks chapter. Yeah.
Okay, inshallah, the question will answer after the lectures.
Yeah, because
Okay, next.
if let's say I'm going to because when developing a business plans, it's a really long process. Eh? So because we don't have enough time for me to explain this.
Okay,
Um,
doctor. Inshallah,
yeah,
the question will answer after the lecture.
in the other lecture. Yeah.
Yeah, in other lecture, after other lectures. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, for next is Brother Najafi. Brother Najafi, you can unmute yourself. Brother Najafi. Okay, next, Brother Kazim. You can unmute yourself, brother. Brother Kazim. Kazim Rashid. Also not respond.
Maybe because it's already yeah, time was already finished.
Okay.
Maybe you have
Brother,
question in the chat box.
yeah, if not, from the chat box here, doctor, we have many questions from the chat box.
Because
Hello.
Yeah, yes, Brother Najafi.
No, this is Brother Kazim Rashid.
Oh, Kazim Rashid. Yeah, Brother Tafadhal.
Yeah, sorry, thank you for that insightful lecture. I'm just concerned about the ethical finance. When you look at how Islam practices the ethical finance, compare with what we have in the Western world. So if someone is in Western world and the way they practice their own ethical finance seems to be contrary to Islam. So how would somebody living in the Western world uh, cope with that of Islamic ethical finance? For the fact that the person is a Muslim and he wants to get into business, and what they have in the Western world is basically on interest, while Islam focuses on ethical finance. So how would the person now leverage that aspect and put things in order? Thank you.
okay, I do believe that like you're talking about the Western countries. Do they have the options of Islamic fundings and so on? So the thing about when we want to find the Islamic fundings, mean to say that we want to find it's according to the Islamic perspective, and it must be Sharia compliance. And at the end of the day, we're talking about the barakah there. But I know that not all of the Western country didn't even have the Islamic funding, the proper way of how to do the Islamic funding. But I do believe some of these country, some of the banks that are Islamic banks also open up their branch in that country as well. So I think as a Muslim, I do believe that we at least have to try this kind of Islamic finance, or else we can just go to the the zakat institutions because like I mentioned before, we are have four types of Islamic fundings, right? So if let's say you cannot even find some of the banking sectors. Maybe you can find from the zakats, or even there are another one way that you can do Islamic type of crowdfunding as well. So without in term of the use of profit sharing, the mudarabah concept, murabah concept as well. So this is one of the way that they can use if let's say you cannot even find any of the Islamic funding in your country, especially in Western. But other banks, I'm not really sure from this bank perspective, whether they open the branch in Western country as well. But in Malaysia, we do have a lot of choices. So in Western, if let's say you didn't have these choices, I think the first thing first that you have to find for the Islamic bank. If let's say you cannot find it, if let's say you cannot find the other types of Islamic capital fundings. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Doctor. So we can answer from the chat box, Doctor. So there is some question. If you can answer.
Because I joined quite late, so I missed the questions.
Okay, here.
Doesn't appear.
Yeah. Let me see first. Okay, from Ita, from Sister Ita. Hi, Doctor. There are cases where business use sukuk or redeemable preference share to gain capital from the public for the project. They need to undergo. One country, they use the money for their own use. Is this due to the loophole in the Islamic contract of the product? The question is number one. Number two, what is your view on this?
So I believe this is the topic of Islamic finance. Yeah.
Oh, not from your
Yeah,
part.
yeah. So I think we you have to ask for the Islamic finance the experts to answer these questions.
Okay. So another one. I think here. Okay. I think that's all, Doctor.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Doctor, for your. Oh, okay. Okay, that's Sister Ita. She said this is. Just reply. This about gaining funding.
But I think as long as they use the Islamic sukuk, it shouldn't be a problem. Because there's a way of because Islamic sukuk is much more like Sharia compliance, I think. You're talking about the Islamic contract. If let's say you're talking about the Islamic contract, I think you can refer to the Islamic finance expert.
Do you got it, sister? I hope you got it. Any question? Any more question? Okay. So I think that's all for Doctor, because no more question. We hope all participants can grab all the knowledge that have given insightfulness, inshallah. Okay. Inshallah, we hope to see you again, Doctor, in the next session, inshallah. So all participants, now we already come to the end of the fifth session. Inshallah, we hope we can see you again in the next session, which is sixth session inshallah next week. Okay, we close our class today with Tasbih al-Kifarah wa Surah al-Asr.